всего, у нас и палатки не будет. Поддержал наступление товарища Резинкин. Мужики. Отступил Петр Петрович. Я не знаю. Мне сказали, вас сюда отвезти. Вот это. Давай. Мне сказали, вас сюда отвезти. Вот это. Давай.
Oh my goodness, am I on already? I'm going to go ahead and just introduce myself. Hello, all you shining lights out there, propagating the light. My name is Doro Kiley, and I'm a life coach. I've been a life coach for over 20 years. To give myself a little introduction, I might take a couple of minutes because I didn't go down a formal path. So I was born in New York in 1954. My father was a stage and film actor, so we always lived within commuting distance of the city. He was also, I would say, my first spiritual teacher because he was an incredible philosopher. He taught me meditation when I was 13 years old. And so he was a big influence on my life, and also my mother. She was an astrologer, and as you can imagine back then, that was uncommon. She had a lot of psychic friends. I grew up hearing all the stories about Atlantis. So she was a very colorful, wonderful woman. Everybody loved her. She was a real socialite. The other side of her side of the family came with a little baggage. There were a lot of addictions in my family. So that was another thing that influenced my life. There were 6 of us. We were all baby boomers. 2 of us have already passed away. So with my father, we did travel a lot. And I spent some time in different states, different countries, just traveling with him because he was an actor behind stage and all that. So in 1967, we spent a summer with him in Hollywood. And that's where, the whole hippie thing was big time. It was happening really big time. So then I moved on to Woodstock. I went to Woodstock in 1969. So this is just me being a hippie, right? After I was finished with all of that, I ended up going to college for a few years, got a degree in occupational therapy. And during my college years, I got into an enormous self-searching quest. What are the answers? I was incredibly curious. So I was studying everything. My mother gave me my first book on quantum theory when I was 13 years old. And when I read the Bible twice from Old Testament to New Testament, I read all the new, I'm getting messages. Thank you, Dominic. So I read the Hindu epic novels, the Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, which is my favorite. I probably have read that one 10 times over. I feel like I'm one of the monkeys in the Hanuman army. So I did a lot of searching. And since my father had introduced me to meditation when I was very young, I kept coming back to that because I found it was helpful, especially when I was going through my tumultuous teenage years and all through college. And I ended up going to New Mexico to a retreat back in 1979. And that summer changed my life in many ways. I went to the Lama Foundation. I think it still exists. It was founded by Ram Dass, who was a major teacher for me. He was born a Jew from Boston and became, I think he was heading up the psychology department at Harvard University, along with his friend Timothy Leary. And back then, drugs were not illegal, not very well controlled. So they decided, with their psychology department powers, they were going to experiment with psilocybin on the students, which they did. And needless to say, they got into some trouble. That's a long story. But so Ram Dass, well, his name at the time was Richard Alpert, good Jewish name. So he decided, after a number of psychedelic trips, he decided that he needed to really understand more about what was happening in his mind, because he was a psychologist. So he was fired from Harvard, and he went on to India in a quest to find answers. And in that, he ended up finding his guru, Neem Karoli Baba, in the mountains. And so all of his teachings that came out of that experience were really guiding lights for me. His teachings probably influenced me more than anybody else's. So you might hear me refer to him on occasion a few times. So in this experience that I had at the Lama Foundation in New Mexico, I basically spent a summer there, going on a number of retreats, and from there to California, and sort of just wandering around. But during that time, in the middle of some very profound guided meditations, I had what I would call an awakening. And it was not what I expected. It was very, very peaceful, expansive, and beautiful. But I ended up feeling like I had nowhere to stand. And I'm going to go ahead and put my phone in airplane mode. This is terrible. Should have done that. There was nowhere to stand. When you're fully in that place of awakening, there's no duality. There's nothing to go by. There's no floor. It's like, if you can imagine being in the middle of space, not knowing what's up, what's down, what's left, what's right, what's in, what's out. And it felt wonderful. It was just expansive and peaceful. But for me, after being in that place for 3 days, I was forgetting to eat. I was not sleeping. I don't know what I was doing. I think I was just sitting, meditating. And somebody came and said, you need to eat. So that was my first introduction back into, I guess, the world. And I realized that I had to recreate my life. And from that point, I just can't help having and I'm not going to say an understanding. It's a remembering. It was like remembering that nothing is real. Nothing is real. We're making it all up as we go. Everything is made up of stories. So a lot of it comes down to what makes you believe something. What makes you believe something is real? That's a great question. And I do like to ask myself and my clients that. What makes you believe something is real? Going back to Ram Dass, he said there's 3 ways to tell or to know something is real for you. And real is different for everybody. But for you either are just completely not thinking about it and just going along with the crowd, and because you believe that what they're doing is the way to go. That's one way. Another way is by experience. Okay, so you have an experience, and then you believe that whatever caused that experience is real. And then you can also believe something if someone that you respect very highly, and you aspire to understand, if that person, like a guru, says something and you are totally bought into that guru, then you believe that, whatever he says. Now, is any of that real? I don't know. That's what we play with, right? What's real, what's not real. So in these stories that I was reading, and this was after my Grand Awakening, right? I started reading the great Hindu epic novels of the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata is also the Bhagavad Gita. I'm sure you've heard of that, and then the Ramayana, which is I think a separate book altogether. It may be tucked into the Mahabharata, but I don't remember reading it there. But I think what the bottom line from everything I have learned is that our path is a path of remembering and questioning what's real, and then moving forward as best we can. One way of seeing it, and this is another Ram Dass, okay, so like I said, I might refer to him a few times. He says what the whole path, okay, spiritual path is about is like falling out of an airplane. And when you realize you're falling and you don't have a parachute, you panic. And you fall and you're going through all the scrambling and the panic. And then after some period of time, you realize there is no ground to hit. And you are just in a constant state of free fall. And that is the ultimate, I mean, you could say the goal, to overcome your fear of falling. So it's overcoming your fear of death, overcoming fear of everything, really. And this is, we're all eventually becoming nobody special. We're just falling and letting go of all of our attachments. So after this, what I call an awakening, and some people might have more questions about that. I certainly still do. In that awakening, again, was in 1979. I realized I had to rebuild my life. So I did go back to college. I was in college and I continued my studies there, but at the same time realizing that nothing is real, which is an interesting situation. Let me just adjust something here. Let me follow my topics over here. Don't want to. Okay. So when nothing is real, how do you recreate your life? It's always been a little bit of a question for me. I just put one foot in front of the other, which took me to my degree, which I got in occupational therapy. And then I didn't know what to do with myself. So I figured, well, I need some grounding. I'm going to go ahead and just have kids. So I found a wonderful man, a Frenchman, and we moved to France, and I lived in France for 10 years, raising children, which was very grounding, very, very good for me, just to create this new character that I was living. And then I moved to Virginia in 1990 with my children. Now I'm a grandmother and I have a wonderful family life here. So where to go from here? I became a life coach 20 years ago, and I work with people who are dealing with these confusing issues. These, what do I do? What's it all about? Why am I here? What is that Mandela effect? What's a parallel reality? So these are the big questions I really love to work with my clients on, creating new stories. And one of the new stories I'm encouraging right now for most of my clients is to be real creative. We've got to come up, I think, with a better story for the world. There's a lot going on in the world, and I'm certainly not going to go down that rabbit hole. But I think it's just dragging us in a direction that we're not really aware of, and it's not what we really want, or certainly I don't want it. So I'm wanting to encourage people to think more in terms of what do we want? What could be our new story here? I don't want the world to fall apart through climate disaster and all this stuff. Not to get into any politics, but I do want us to be conscious and create another alternative. Now, that does not mean going against what is. It just means telling a new story. So let me see. When I was talking about the Mandela effect, which is what I believe this show is for, and by the way, thank you for inviting me on. This is a great podcast here. The Mandela effect for me is kind of a tearing away of one page. One page of the book was torn out, and you know what? This kind of brings up I did a little what do you call it? A slideshow, PowerPoint. So if I can pull this up here, let me see where it is. Oh, there we go. So this is fun. This image kind of came to me in a meditation. Now, I used to be a scuba diver. And when I was scuba diving, it's pretty clear that when you're at the top of your body of water that you're swimming in, it's clear, it's warm, it's it's fun. It's just nice to be there. And as you go down, you can start to feel the pressure building. You can start see that you're losing light. It's definitely getting colder. And the farther you go down, the more uncomfortable it becomes. Now, the reason this came to me is because I see this as our levels of consciousness. All the way down at the bottom, here, I'll go to the next slide here. If you want to follow along, you can imagine if you've ever played with the idea of chakras and the energies that they involve, you can see down on the bottom, there are very dark forces, survival. This is where you're hungry and there's a piece of meat in the woods and you're going to kill somebody to get it. And so it's that survival, and you'll do anything for the next breath of air. And so there can be a lot of fear involved. But basically everything you're doing is for survival down on that level. The next level up is the gardens of pleasure. Okay, they can be sexuality. This is where we can go into addictions and cravings, and that's often coupled with guilt. And as you can see, moving up, you're dealing with the next level up would be the power, the willpower, the shaming, but it also has some positive areas there. That's where arts and theater and arts and poetry, creative expression, telling stories. This is the creative realm here. And that's where we generate our stories. Oh, and I do want to put in here, now this is not textbook anything. This is just the stuff that I've learned over the course of my lifetime, and with all from the different resources, put this puzzle together so that, I don't know if you're ever going to find anything like this online. But this is my perspective. So as you're moving up, you can see that the next level up is where we begin to break through that lower energy and we come up into the heart. So I won't go into all the details going all the way up, but I wanted to share this because where we are right now in the world, and this is why I'm on a mission to change the world, the lower chakras, if you will, the bottom three chakras are basically where we have been abiding for the last couple thousand years at least. And it's getting, I think, more intense because of the corporate model of competition, all of these pleasure seeking, sexuality, fear, all of these things make money. So these are the money making realms. And that's why we sort of hover in there a lot. We stay with the fear and survival. I mean, oh my gosh, we've been hearing the World War III word on all the news broadcasts for the last, I don't know what, few weeks. But all of it, starting with COVID, and it goes way back before then. But you can see how it's been ramping up, this sense of fear. And then the whole pleasure thing. When you're in fear and you can't do anything about it, you start reaching for something to make you feel better or to distract you. So there comes your addictions, and of course, signing up with all your entertainment technologies, gaming, and Netflix, and what all. So we are hovering around here in the willpower, the shame, the pleasure, the guilt, the survival, the fear. And I know there's more. There's a lot more that we could be doing, but it's going to take a lot to sort of not unplug. You can't really unplug from these things, but you can start to tell a new story, which will help you to get more a more expansive understanding. I should have mentioned too that I over the years I finally became a meditation teacher. After all those years, in fact, started going to a Buddhist monastery for I'd say about 25 years now. I go for retreats, and so you can feel through meditation the ability to raise up into a different consciousness. Now, I might have another little slide here. That's a whole other thing. Let me go back a minute. So what we want to do, what I'm on a mission to do, is to help people to control that energy. Now, you can do that through meditation. You can also do it through music. And I continue to say this on my podcast. My new story that I want to start telling has a lot to do with music, the use of vibration. So you can look down, and I know this is all over the internet. The different chakras emit certain vibrations, and the lowest of the vibrations is in the bottom, in the survival, fear, all that. And then as we can work our way up, the vibration begins to change. So that when you get all the way to the top, you're expanded, you've merged with the stardust. So it's the highest possible vibration. You've become light. So that's what we're doing, right? Propagating the light. Now, I believe that certain songs, certain resonant vibrations can actually bring us to different levels of consciousness. There's a question about what's the difference between parallel realities, levels of consciousness, realms, and dimensions. Some of these are interchangeable. I would say that what we're looking at right here are realms, or also you could call them dimensions. So the bottom one is the densest dimension. You can also think of this as up here in the clouds is like the gas, the unformed. And then this is water. And as it comes down, it gets harder and harder. So you could say down here in the bottom is like solid, like ice. So we're changing form as we descend, and we change form as we ascend. So down here in the most solid realm, you could say, or dimension, this would be what I would call solid, like ice. And then as we go up through meditation, let me pop over to another video here, or another slide. This one here shows this what's referred to as Kundalini energy. And as you can see on both sides of this picture, there's the one side and the other side, pleasure and guilt, survival and fear. One side is more in alignment, it feels in alignment. The other feels like it's like a note, like the A note and then the A flat. Okay, it's not that they're wrong or bad, it's just that they're a different vibration. So you can see how the serpents, which we would call the Kundalini, kind of wrap back and forth. Now I'm going to go back one more slide here so I don't lose you. So in this, let's say this is water. Now you can also say this is levels. And there's many, 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 many levels. Let's start from the bottom. You could count probably thousands of levels. If you look at it like the pages of a book. And we have to go through all of that in order to be released from what I would call the wheel of karma. I'm going to jump around here. Okay, this is the wheel of karma. It's a torus. And what that does is, if you can imagine that you are somewhere in here, this is the book of you. This is all of your potential experiences. Now, this is just, you could add trillions more lines here, but if every cross section here is you having an experience, you have to go through all of this in order to awaken. It's going to get life after life after life. So you start in the middle, which is the superconscious. There's nothing happening here. It's just pure power, pure, you could say, electricity. So you get born, you come out, you go around, you have your life, you're going through all those emotions and feelings, you come back around, and then you come back in. And this is where you die, right back in the middle again. And then you start again, and then you wrap around, and you're going around and around thousands of times and over until you have completed the whole circle. And you could say this is the matrix. You could say it's like a game, but it's not somebody doing it to us. This is our game that we made from the supraconscious into the unconscious, into the subconscious, into the conscious. And we are on the outside here having one experience after another. So we're going around, and you can see here that on the outer side is our daily consciousness. This is what we carry around with us during the day. Then we go into the subconscious, most often when we're perhaps dreaming, but the subconscious also affects us constantly during the course of our life. And so this is the name of the game. I'm going to try to back up just to put this more in perspective. So here we are back here going through our lives, and we start this, let's say this first page way down here. This is our first life. This life is very painful. It's very difficult. It's survival. It's, coming right out of perhaps the animal realm. Okay, so very involved in eating and food and just breathing, those basic things. Now each line here is like a life. So you go through a life, and then you die at the end, and you get reborn, and you go through again and again and again. Now it's not this clear because it does go over here. So if you take that lake that I just showed, and you folded it around into a tube, so the top goes around and meets the bottom, you have something like this. Now, to make it more complicated, you're going to take the right side and the left side and pull it around and put them together on the far side. So now you have this. So, and if you remember, each one of these colors are representing a vibration. So the red on the outside is the most solid. Okay, so imagine this is the icy outside, and then as you go inward, you're going through all those different levels and vibrations until you reach the pure consciousness. And you can, I don't want to confuse it, but you could reverse this so that the consciousness is on the outside, but that's another way of describing it. So after you have this, then you bend it all together into a torus. And this is what we look like. If you wanted to say, what do we look like in our spirit? This is what I feel we look like. We look like a torus. And our consciousness, our little pinpoint of me consciousness, is traveling in and out, up and down, all around for, whatever, thousands of years until we complete the circle. And at the end, what's the final thing that happens is we remember. We remember who we are. The whole picture comes together. And that's what our potential is. And this is why I am on a mission to help people remember. We're stuck. We're kind of stuck down in these first three realms or dimensions, whatever you want to call it, because of the reality that we have bought into. And that's fine. This has all been interesting. So is this where we want to stay? I mean, it's got a lot of kudos. I love, when I really need something, I like, having the conveniences around me, or buy something from Amazon. I mean, it's all here. Everything we ever wanted is kind of like right here. We could do anything. And that's an extremely frightening and liberating feeling. So I'm at the point where, okay, we can do anything. Do we really want to stay down in these vibrations of fear and distraction and addictions? And I don't want to say it's bad to be down here. I'm just saying it's uncomfortable. And I know, because I've been there. I was an alcoholic. I was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I credit meditation for helping me to kind of rise above that. I don't want to say even above, but just to see where that was coming from, and then give me a conscious choice of how I wanted to respond to those urges and cravings. And a lot of it is just about learning how to let go, which is what meditation is. When you feel yourself being very drawn in, you try to go into that place of no thinking, and then things lighten up. It's like most of the time we're holding a cork under the water. If we just let go of the cork, it floats. It will come back up. And that's, for me, what meditation does. So coming back to, I don't know how much more we want to go through this. I do want to show this. So you saw this. Let me take it here. This is where sacred geometry starts to come in. And I don't want to go into that. There's so much to talk about. I'm already trying to integrate multiple subjects here. So we might keep wanting to come back to this and look at it. So I don't know if there's anything else the Mandela effect. There were a couple of stories I wanted to mention. I am one of these older folks who remembers certain things that are suddenly not there anymore. And I'm sure you've all heard of the Monopoly guy with the monocle, the Bernstein Bears that is now the Berenstein Bears. Then you have, all of these, right? Febreze. I mean, that was 2 E's. Jiffy peanut butter was FFY. When I was a kid, these were my reality. Those were real. And I know for sure, especially the most powerful one for me was the was the Monopoly guy with the monocle. I was probably, I don't know, I'm going to say 10 years old when I started playing Monopoly with my siblings. And I didn't know what this was, this thing on this guy's eye. And I asked my mom, I said, what is that? She said, that's a monocle. That's the first time I ever heard the word, and I remembered it. And that's the monocle. And I, from that point on, I knew what a monocle was. Well, after the Mandela effect started up, which was back in 2008, by the way, I remember when that happened. But I said, oh, no, that's not true. The monocle's still there. I have the old Monopoly game in the closet. And I went and looked, and sure enough, there was no monocle. I said, that's impossible. And that happened again with a number of things. The Ford logo, there was no squiggle there. I mean, so yes, we did sort of flip into another reality. Now, if I can just put that up again, I'm going to go back to this one where we have all the pages of the book. So what happened? One of these pages was ripped out of the book. And I think that was the CERN project in Geneva, Switzerland in September 2008. I remember they were working up to it. It was a big deal. We're going to start up the CERN Hadron Collider. And there was a lot of pushback against that. People were trying to stop it. Don't do that. You're going to rip a hole in the fabric of reality or shoot us into another time-space realm somewhere. And so there were a lot of people trying to stop it, especially scientists, saying, you don't know what you're doing. You're going to create a black hole. So when I knew they were going to do it, and I went to bed that night, and I even said to my friend who I was talking about, I said, well, I'll see you in some other reality. So we woke up the next morning, and it looked like nothing changed. I thought, oh, phew, wow, that's good. We all survived it. But little by little, these, what they call now Mandela effects, started showing up. And I realized that it just clicked in my head that we did switch universes. That page was ripped out. It's gone. And now here we are in the next closest level of the parallel of the reality that we were living in. So that's the way I'm understanding it. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about with the parallel reality issue was another very interesting experience I had back in, I'm going to say 92, 93. I was living here in the mountains with my children. They were young at the time, maybe 8, 10, and 12. And it was a regular day, and I packed them all in the car. We were going to go down into town and go to a movie. So where I live is way up on a mountain. So getting into town is about 40 minutes away, and you're twisting, winding down this long mountain road to go into town. And this was in the evening. And when we were going down the mountain, my truck headlights, I was driving a truck, my truck headlights went out. And I, of course, you're going down a mountain with, tremendous cliff on one side. I was scared, and I was panicking. The kids were screaming, and suddenly I could hear the truck started to bump and crash through the barriers, and we started to roll through space. And there was an impact, and the glass shattered, and the kids were screaming, and then it all just went blank. The next thing I remember is waking up. I couldn't open my eyes, but I could hear heart monitors. And I knew I was in the hospital. I could hear this intercom in the hallway. Dr. So-and-so, please come to the store. And I knew I was in the hospital. And I thought, wow, what happened? Why am I here? And I started to remember the crash. And then I thought, oh my God, my kids. And I just blanked out. And suddenly I woke up in my own bed but I still couldn't open my eyes. I could still hear the monitors, but the sounds of the hospital were fading away. But I felt still paralyzed, and it took a couple of minutes, maybe 2-3 minutes, to be able to even open my eyes. And I opened my eyes, and I was in my bed, and I looked at the clock, and I was disoriented, and I was like, oh, what am I doing? Where am I? And suddenly I realized, oh, it's 7 o'clock. I got to get the kids up for school. And I jumped up, and the kids were fine. Everything was good. And I really, truly believe that I died that night, and I was put into the next closest reality, which my own parallel realities. This one that I'm in now was the closest one that I jumped into. And I don't know if this happens every time a person dies, they just go into another parallel reality. But I'm convinced that that was definitely, for me, skipping into another dimension, or another parallel reality, rather. So with that, what can we do? Maybe it's snack time. and then I can come back and we can maybe do some question and answers. So yeah, let's take a snack. I brought mine.
In your skull, you have 3 neurons called the neural correlates of consciousness. These are 3 giant neurons that wrap around the inside of the skull, and guess what they look like under a brain scan? They look like a crown of thorns. Sound familiar, Christians? Does that sound familiar to you? A crown. Every single person is walking around with a crown of thorns. And then those neurons, they synchronize with the magnetite crystals in the base of the brain. You have billions of magnetite crystals. Crystals communicate. Crystals pick up frequencies and encapsulate frequencies. That's how you have crystal radio sets that work. And then you have your neocortex. Get it? Neo from the movie Matrix. You think they just made that name up? The neocortex is responsible for spatial and higher reasoning and consciousness. Those 3 things together work in conjunction to encapsulate a frequency that 99.1, it captures it. And then it downloads it into the avatar body and holds it here. And then your frequency animates the avatar body. And then you think you're you, that you're not me, that you're a separate person from me. In true reality, individuality and separation is all an illusion. All an illusion. I'm talking to you guys through all these cameras, but I'm really just talking to myself. And when you're talking to somebody, you're talking to yourself. There's only one person. There's only one entity that exists. There's only one consciousness. Separation is an illusion. We are in a loop. We're in a time loop. You don't even know it. We're in this loop. We're in a cycle, man. We are in a cycle, and we can't break free of it until we get this knowledge. Real knowledge. Not knowledge that makes us feel proud on the inside because we stopped right here in this category where we were dominating. No. Forget this supremacy stuff. Forget black supremacy. Forget white supremacy. Forget indigenous supremacy. Forget Asian supremacy. You want to learn the truth? You got to drop all this egotistical supremacy bullcrap. Only melanated people can go into space and only white people can do it. I'm tired of this foolishness, man. You guys sound like dummies, some of you. Not all of you, but some of you sound like complete idiots. Okay? You're trying to violate the laws of physics based off of skin tones.
Yeah, we are back on track, like Amtrak. I am Emmanuel, you see it right there on the screen. I thank y'all for being in tune with Doro and me. Go-Kart Bob is here. Dominic, thank you as well. And everyone else, thank you for being in tune with us. And Sky and Ness as well in the live chat. That's who I'm mentioning. And we're accepting all your questions right now about some of the topics that were spoken on already. and any Mandela effect questions. And here on my channel for the first time, I'm going to reintroduce you to Doro. What's up? How you doing?
Hey, how are you doing? I'm having
All
fun.
right. All right. That was a beautiful breakdown. I like everything you said.
It's pretty
And
complicated. Yeah. Thank you.
mm-hmm. And so Go Kart Bob is here. And you know, uh Martin's here as well. Thank you. Says you're lurking. Martin, what's up? um but yeah, and yeah, thank you. Big thank you to her audience for coming through. So yeah, a lot of it, some of it is kind of perplexing, maybe to some people, but it's one of those things where you have to sit down and think about, like, maybe you're breaking it down your way, or maybe somebody else will break it down a different way, but you're both saying the same thing, or maybe not. But I'm happy that you came through to break down, your theories and your perspective and experiences on these topics.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fascinating. There's so many pieces to the puzzle that it's hard to put them all together. But this little, and I didn't do that great a job as far as explaining in detail, because really it is such a vast subject. You can just go on for hours. So I blew through it. I hope somebody got something out of it. But that's the way I put the pieces of the puzzle together, and it works for me. Thank you.
Okay, okay, for sure. And I heard you say earlier, Febreze, the 2E thing. Yeah, it had 2E.
You remember it? Yeah, it did. It really did. It had two E's. And the Bernstein Bears, that's the book I was reading to my children. It was the Bernstein Bears. I read all the books to them, Bernstein Bears. And after 2008, suddenly it's Berenstain. I was like, oh, no. That's not my reality.
Right,
um,
right. A, s-
yeah.
a stain is not my reality either, but that's
Mm-mm. Yeah.
so what about what about that bear that stops forest fires? What was his name?
Smokey the Bear,
Right.
right?
So are you okay, so you say Smokey the Bear. Now that's interesting right there, because that's the way I recall it, but if you look now, it's not that no more.
What is it now? I can't keep up. What is it? What is it? I don't know
Well,
what it is now.
let me see if I just could go ahead and just show you. Let me see. Smokey the Bear. I'm going to show you right now. I'm just typing it up, and let's see. All right, so um, what do we have here? Okay, here we go. So let me go ahead and do that. Share the screen right now, and just loading up. Well, anyways, let's see what Skyness has to say. I'm interested to hear about your children and grandchildren. Do you feel like they are more in tune and conscience than older generations?
Wow, that's a good question. Um, my oldest son, I think, is pretty much in alignment with all of this, and the problem is, I raised my kids on this stuff, and by the time they were um, teenagers, they were just like, oh gosh, mom's going to put in another tape and listen to the parallel reality or something. That kind of burnt them out, I think, to some degree. But I think they do have a lot of this in their consciousness. We drive to New York. I've got the tapes and lectures going all the time about spiritual stuff and physics, and so they got some of it, but we don't sit down and go too far into it very often. I think they
Mm,
do feel that they are the ones creating their own story. I think that's the bottom line, that we are creating our story here. We're co-creating our entire reality together, and we have to decide if this is
oh,
the reality we want.
Okay, okay. In regards to the Smokey the Bear,
Yeah.
I can't show it right now, but it says Smokey Bear. That's the name now, Smokey
Oh
Bear.
no, no, it was Smokey the Bear. Smokey. Yeah, not Smokey Bear. Not in my
Yeah,
reality.
right. And some people will say like, okay, I'm from reality A, you're from reality B, and some people will say they're changing certain stuff and it means certain things. And like, what do you think about that? Like, do you, okay, let me phrase it this way. Have you seen the TV show called Sliders?
I've heard of it. Yeah, sliding between realities, parallel realities. Is that it?
Right. And when you get to a reality, it looks similar to the one that they came from, but there's certain changes, there's certain differences.
Yeah,
So do you think
that's
stuff like Smokey the Bear, Febreze, all this stuff, maybe we're in different, maybe we're shifting to a different reality where those always been that way. Does that make any sense?
yes. You know, one of the reasons I did that first picture of the lake with the different dimensions, in essence, what I wanted that to say was that all of the stories, they're already here. It's all done. There is no time and space. It's all done. It's all here. It's just at what point are you relating to? Which point in that entire ocean of possibilities are you relating to? So there is no time and space. It's just where are you? Where are you in this entire matrix? And as I said before, I believe we are creating this matrix together. It's unconscious, but we're doing it. And the idea is to wake up and do it consciously. And it might look different if we do it consciously.
Mm, okay. So regarding location, right? So like where we're at and things, have you heard this whole thing about everything has a vibration, and if you align to it, you'll draw yourself closer to it?
Yes. Yes. It's like tuning forks. I agree. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to get across in the whole chakra system in relationship to vibration and music. You can actually shift your vibration according to what you are resonating with, and that can be all the way down or all the way up. You know, in as far as realms go, there are different realms all around us all the time. You know, if I go into New York City and I go underground, there are what they call mole people, right? There's a whole culture of people living under the ground, under the city streets, and they have a certain level of consciousness that is different from mine. And you can say the total opposite, that I could go live in a monastery, and that is an entirely different realm of consciousness. So there are different realms, and we pick and choose where we want to be. Do we want to be, living with the mole people under New York City, or do we want to be living in a monastery, or do we want to? This is where free will comes in. We can pick and choose our realm, our dimension, tell our own story, and create our own reality. So I don't know if that answered your question. I I do have fun with this. It's a little hard to get all the brain cells wrapped around it, but did that
Right,
answer your
right. No, that's
question?
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it answered it and you expounded on it, which I like because, sometimes a question turns into more questions and you're
Yes.
answering everything right there. So,
Yeah.
and so that's something else. So if you want to be in a positive zone, so to speak, then you have to stay away from, who you would call a negative person or negative people, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's an interesting issue right there too, because the only way you would attract that negativity is if you're resonating in the same way, at least unconsciously. Um, there's something about you, and in Buddhism they could call it, or even Hinduism they'll call it karma. Okay, so your karma is who you are in your vibration, and you could be going along a very happy life, doing your vibrating whatever you are, and suddenly, you get robbed. Okay, so something completely that you were not thinking about, that you were not expecting, that you couldn't believe that you were vibrating on that level. Why did this happen to me? But it was, in Buddhism, it would be considered a samskara that was in your little matrix that you had to kind of cross over it. You had to experience it, in order to continue. So yeah, some of these things are so subtle, but yeah, you would not be attracting a lot of negativity in your life if you're, say, for example, on the other extreme, living in a monastery. Okay. So you're picking and choosing where you want to be, what kind of people you want to be around, what's the vibration. But you can always be thrown a curveball. Something could come in and hit you unexpectedly, and that would be called, in Buddhism, a samskara.
Okay, what does samskara mean?
It means that, you have, in some past experience of your life or previous life, you did something. It was like you set something in motion. For every action, there's going to be a reaction. I mean, that's physics. So that reaction can come back to you at any point. It could come back to you in this lifetime, or 40 lifetimes out. Don't know. But when you do something, it will come back to you. And that could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. So if you do something with a negative intention, eventually something negative is going to come back to you. It's just a cause and effect. For every action, there is a reaction. And when you're talking about Buddhism or Hinduism, they are talking in terms of energy. So you put out a good energy, you got nothing to do today, you're going to go, help out at the soup kitchen and serve people. That's a good energy, that's good action. And then at some point that has a tendency to come back to us, that, somebody ends up helping us out when we need it or something. It's samskara is illusion, and it's also action taking place within the illusion. That's, I think, basically how I would interpret it.
Okay. So we have a message here from Go-Kart Bob. Mole people living underground? Come on.
There's
Where's the
even a
proof?
movie about it. I mean, that's how I learned it, as a documentary. The Mole People. It's years ago I saw it, but it tells, some brave reporter decided to do a documentary on the Mole People under New York City, and it's a whole other level of society under there. Now, I don't know if they've cleaned that all up, so-called cleaned that all up. I don't know, but there's a movie out there, a documentary called the Mole People. That's how I learned about it. I mean, they're mostly, unfortunate, homeless and addicted people, and that's a level of reality that, they live on. Like I said, my family has sort of dived in and out of addictions, and so there is that level of consciousness, and I would call it even a realm. In Hinduism, maybe Buddhism, you could call it the hungry ghost realm. In fact, the last retreat I went to at this monastery, the head abbot monk said, our world is more populated with hungry ghosts now than ever before.
Okay. Speaking of spooky, we have Skooksy. Skook Strange Worlds in here. I streamed with Skooks more than a couple of times, so she's good peoples.
Great.
Skooks. This is Doro Skooks.
Nice to meet
And
you.
She has a busy schedule too, so I thank you for being here. When I said two, that's in reference to this other person named My Life. We always say my life is always busy. I've streamed with her more than a couple of times as well. So hopefully we'll introduce you to her one of these days.
Great.
So Go-Kart Bob, reference to the Mole People, says movies aren't real.
That's right. That's right. Nothing is real. You know, nothing is real. It's just how much do we want to believe in it? You know, and that's why one of my great questions, what makes you believe something? And it's different for everybody. You know, you can believe something because it's just the right thing that's going to make you feel better. I mean, you can suddenly you believe in it. Nothing is real. But the matrix, the reality that we create together is kind of an agreement. Oh, let's create a world that has gravity. Okay, that's a good place to start. And, you know, let's create a world that has you know, these dynamics and nature and progression. And it's very actually gets very much into sacred geometry. We are creating this on some level, not consciously, but we are creating it on the supraconscious level. It's coming out of the supraconscious, and
Okay.
that's in the that's in my PowerPoint somewhere. But yeah, nothing is
Okay.
real. It's all just what we want to pretend is real and believe it.
Okay, so I think that goes into what Skynet says here in the chat. So have you heard of this that atoms have empty space? Skynet says everything is empty. I'm thinking that Skynet is referring to that.
Everything is empty. Absolutely. You know, even in quantum physics, you know, they got all the way down to particle theory, and they see everything as in particles. But then you would say, okay, well, that's still not empty. There's something there. There's little particles there. But then you go down into string theory, and you're looking at the particles from a different angle. They're not particles at all. They are waves of energy. So you could say, okay, is a wave of energy empty? You know, it kind of gets on that cusp of, is it real? Is it not real? I think
Mm.
I think you're right. It's all empty, and we're all coming out of that emptiness. And I like to think of it as, you know, this emptiness is pure potential. Pure potential. Think of it in terms of pure electricity without any form. It's just electricity, conscious energy, but it has no form. So in order for it to take form, it has to go into something. So what we do is we create things. Now imagine electricity is going through a house. Okay, it's kind of useless, isn't it, unless we have things to plug into, like a toaster or a refrigerator. So once you have the electricity moving through the object, then you have something functional, and you can start to have experiences, which is all we're doing, is we're trying to have all these experiences. So this whole idea of pure consciousness, which could be like pure electricity, plugged into what? It could be plugged into anything. That's our job. That's our job to figure out, what do we want? Do we want to make a whole bunch of toasters? You know, how do we want to use this pure consciousness? And it's not even that we are separate. We're not separate from this pure consciousness. Like we're not separate from electricity. We are this energy, and we're just saying to ourselves, what can I become? What can I do? What can I create? And everything that we do after that is for the experience, to see what we can do. So we are massively creative. We just have not been tapping into it. We're still stuck all down here in the corporate competitive model of craving and fear. And we're so much bigger than that. We don't need to hang out here, down here in this realm of fear and cravings.
That's pretty good because that had me think of something like, okay, so we're, I guess you could say, manipulating or have a part in what we want out of reality. And I was thinking to myself, like, how does that work? Okay, so let's say you have a remote control car and you have a cord that's attached to the car. They have them wireless now, but something is connecting it to make it work a certain way. So I was thinking like, okay, with us in reality, is it our vibration? Then before you answer that, I looked at the chat, and Go Kart Bob says something to this. God is the creator of this reality, not me. I just experienced this world. So,
That's true.
are right. So are we God? Some people would say we're God. We're little. It's controversial, but from what I've heard, we're like Christians are little Christ. So we're like God experiencing itself through us. What do you think about that?
That's one of my favorite questions. If you take a disco ball, you know what a disco ball is, right? It's like a ball with a million little pieces of mirror on it.
Right, right.
If you imagine that in the center of that ball is pure consciousness, okay, that's the electricity we were talking about, pure potential that says to itself, what can I become? And suddenly all of these reflections start to merge outward. And every tiny little piece of mirror on that ball is a reflection of the inner pure potential, just seeing itself from a different angle. So it's reflecting itself back from a different angle. And and so there's no way people are ever going to be on the same page. We can't all be on the same page at the same time because we all have a different perspective. We are all different expressions of that core. Now, as we go out, that the reflections that we are experiencing, they can be anywhere within that sphere, and that goes back to the torus that I was showing on my PowerPoint. I'll get it really good one of these days. I'll figure out how to do a better job of that. But so if we are just a reflection, a teeny tiny little pixel of a reflection of the great source of consciousness, we're just showing it what it can do. That's all we're doing, is we can bend this way or that way, but we're still reflecting back to it what it can become. So we're out here just creating our own little stories and having different experiences, but it's not that we are isolated, independent people. We are an extension of that core that plugs into us, that is us, that keeps us animated.
Okay. So let me tell you this. You were talking about going in and out of different realities. Sometimes during my sleep, I will wake up somewhere else. I've spoken about this before. And what I mean is I will become fully conscious where I'm at, and I'm not where I started at. This one time I woke up in this pod, P-O-D, and I got up and started walking around. Other things happened, but I'll just tell you, I was inside of a building, and then I managed to walk outside of the building. When I was outside of the building, I realized that that location is a place that I've dreamed about before, but I was always on the outside of the building, and now I'm coming out of one of the buildings, and I'm outside. I'm like, wait a minute, this exact area. So I'm thinking like, okay, it only makes sense to me that I was literally somewhere else for real, because when I was going through it, I was really there for real,
Yeah.
as real as I am here. So what I'm saying to that is, some would say, oh, all of this is reality being processed and generated and put out by this pod. But maybe that's not necessarily true. Maybe I just woke up in a different reality where I was in the pod, or maybe all this is coming from a pod, maybe not. What do you think about that?
That's introducing a new term, pod. So what does that mean to you?
Some type of apparatus where I'm laying in, where I'm isolated at. Uh, um, how can I put it? It was somewhere where I was. It was a apparatus that I was sleeping in, and it
Okay.
wasn't a bed. It wasn't a bed. It was shaped different than the bed. Kind of like the first. Matrix where he was in some kind of thing, some
Yeah.
kind of looked like a pod.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I see where you're going.
Right, right.
And so you're saying, can you be merging in and out of parallel realities? Is that
Yeah,
trying
I
to
was
get a
wondering
little
what you
more?
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering what you thought about that. That if you think that's is even a thing, because when I was going through it, it was at that time. I just curious to know what other people think about that.
I believe I believe two things. I believe nothing is real and anything is possible. So it's really just what we want to create. We are creators, okay? We are a reflection of the one creator, and we have our own little creative abilities. So we're creating all of it. We're creating our own experiences, whether we are merging in and out of dimensions or parallel realities. It's whatever you choose to believe that's creating your reality. Everything is out there. The whole entire ocean already exists. It's just, where do we want to be in the ocean? If you're skipping through timelines and parallel realities, you can do that. It could be a tear in the matrix. It could be anything. Anything is possible. Yes, I believe that we do skip from one reality to another, sometimes often, and we're not aware of it. Like the Mandela effect. I mean, we just skipped into a parallel reality, and most of us have never become aware of it. Yeah, I believe that we can go from one dimension to another, one reality to another, and
Okay,
not even know it. Some of us can say, yes, this happened. Some of us wouldn't even be aware of it.
okay. And I also bring that up because I was on this other stream more than a couple of times, and the host of that stream says that he said something similar, and he mentioned it first. And I'm just listening to the stream. I wasn't actually on it with him. I'm listening to it, and you could like put your comment in the chat. So I'm listening to him, and he's speaking about healing pods, and I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds similar to what I went through. I don't know if it was like a healing pod or whatever. I just know it from my perspective as I just call it, using English, a pod. I don't know what they call it. The people, the beings that put me there or whatever have you or whatever, or however I got there. But anyways, that person is in the chat, and welcome in Patrick Roberts for the first time in the chat. Um, so this is the person that I'm referring to. He says they are called healing pods. And what were you about to say?
This is great. My mom used to talk about, she didn't call them pods, but she said, in your lifetime, remember, my mother she hung out with psychics and all that's right. She said, in your lifetime, you will see them develop little healing rooms, that where you lay down and you will be immersed in certain vibrations and colors, and all the cells of your body would be healed. I think we do have that technology. I think it's, not being used right now because it's not commercially beneficial to the pharmaceutical company or whatever. But, I think we do have the technology to have these. And if maybe I'm totally off track with what we're talking about, Patrick Roberts healing pods. I believe that they could exist, if I'm understanding what we're talking about.
Yeah, I hear what
You
you're
want to,
saying.
yeah, you could tell me
Because
more about what they are, and maybe I'll have another idea.
yeah, no, I heard of what you were talking about. I heard that before as well. So it makes sense to me that maybe sometime in the future, maybe they just develop into something maybe of what I was in. Maybe I was somewhere in the future. I have no idea.
Could be. Could be. I do think we have peeks into the future. Now, the future is an interesting subject because, as I said, from my perspective, the way I understand it, there is no time and space. Everything already is. Okay. Every possibility, every realm, dimension, reality, anything you can imagine already is out there in the infinite you know, in the infinite. And all we're doing is picking and choosing where we want to be. And I do think that there's no predetermined future coming at us, but there are millions of potentials that we could pick and choose from. And depending on how we are vibrating in our, you know, chakras or whatever, is going to point to the most likely track that we're going to follow, but it doesn't have to be the track that's going to happen. It's all up to us.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be the in my name.
Yeah.
You know, some
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and see, and speaking of that, going to the track that your chakras and your inner, your vibration, I guess you're saying, is at, you go to that place. I guess that's what you're saying. I'm assuming that's what it sounds like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. If I'm a tuning fork and I'm, you know, and I'm resonating at the level of, you know, E, okay, the note E, then everything around me that is on that same wavelength, if you will, is going to be part of my reality.
Okay. And Patrick Roberts has something to say about the pods here. Kind of like we were taken when CERN blew the universe up. Our minds will be blown to wake up that fast. So we are like on ships in healing chambers. That's kind of the thought.
You know, if you can think it, it's possible. If it's in your imagination, then it already exists somewhere. If that's what you're drawn to, that belief system, I'm sure that's out there. You know, I don't doubt anything. It's all out there. It's just, what do we want to believe? Where do we want to go? What story do we want to tell?
So this is the thing, when I was talking about my dream that led me into that environment, I'm starting to know from my perspective, due to my experiences, when I sleep, it seems like I kind of pair off from this particular reality that I'm in now, and I go to a different one sometimes. It's not a lucid dream. I've had a lucid dream before. I know what that is like. This is more like I am literally somewhere else. I'll open up my eyes and I'm literally somewhere. Now I'm saying this is like, but I really mean that that's what happened.
Yeah, I hear it. You know, I've had dreams too where, gosh, I had one dream, it's really hard to explain, but it was just like bouncing among the stars, you know, going from place to place. I was, you know, with a guide and there were no words. It was just suddenly knowing, you know, things felt like, oh, aha, oh, that's how, you know, things were being transmitted that I was receiving because I was bouncing around the universe, you know, bouncing from star to
Right.
star. You can't put it into rational term. It's no way to really describe it very well, but we can go in all kinds of places when we're dreaming, different levels of consciousness.
Right. And do you think or know through experience, what do you think about okay, let me just put it like this. I've read online somewhere that when we're sleeping, it happens to everybody, that when you're sleeping, your spirit rises out of your body, even if it's a couple of inches above your body. But do you think or have experienced um, you that's inside of your body going to another realm or being outside of the body? And, you know, they call it out of body experiences. What do you think?
Absolutely. Um, my father gave me a book once called Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe. And that goes
Mm,
back, I think I was 14, 15 when he gave me that book. So I started to do the practices. And yes, I was absolutely getting out of my body. And I don't recommend it because once you start doing it, it's hard to stop. You know, I literally go to bed at night and next thing I know, I'm standing next to my body, looking at myself sleeping and looking around, and there were people there. There were people in these experiences. I was, and one person was actually someone who I had known who was killed, shot in the head. And he was there. And we would have these conversations, and then he would leave, and I would just have to think myself back into my body. That kind of out of body experience I had probably 3 or 4 times, and I really started trying to set the intention to not do it. And it was difficult to not do it after that. It's almost as though, you take a sticky note and you take it off the table, and then you stick it on again and take it off again. Eventually it's going to stop sticking. And I felt like I don't have any stick left. I can't get back in my body and stay there. It did feel like that. Yeah, I think we are surrounded by all kinds of, levels, dimensions, and we can go in and out of them. So yeah, I did have that experience. I think my kids, my daughter's trying to do it now. No, she's having any luck with it. Yeah, there's
Okay.
a whole Monroe Institute that's built around, or at least started around that concept of leaving the body.
Okay. If you able to, if you could check the private chat real quick, and I'm going to one of these in the chat. Biz Woofer, thank you for being in tune. Biz Woofer says consciousness is real, though correct. Wait a minute, am I reading that right? Consciousness is real, though correct. That's what you mean, or that's what you mean? Okay, sorry about that. Let me read it better. Consciousness is real, though correct. That's what you mean. That only consciousness is real. What do you think about that?
Yes, I would agree with that. It's like, well, and then you get into relative realities. Okay. So if you're talking about really real, like really, really real, yes, it's just pure consciousness. It's just like pure electricity. Everything outside of that is relatively real. And it just depends on what you really want to believe is real. I keep coming back to that, but you're right. It's the only reality is that core essence of life force, which is like electricity that powers everything. It's behind everything. Nothing exists without it. And we're just reflections. Yeah.
Okay. I keep hearing this thing about cryptids. Do you know anything about cryptids?
No, don't know that. I'm learning.
Okay.
What is it?
I don't know. I think it's beings that exist. Some would say maybe mythical beings that exist or something like that.
Oh yeah, I believe every kind of creature is out there somewhere. Yeah, I believe in all that, everything. I believe in everything, and I don't believe in anything. So crypt, you mean like different creatures on different realities and aliens and all that? I believe in all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What are your thoughts about aliens? I know aliens. We use aliens here on Earth as they're aliens, but they're alien to us, I guess. Beings that we call aliens. What are they actually called? I mean, do you know anything about what we call aliens?
Since there's not a lot of, well, there is proof out there, but it's not accepted into the mainstream view. I do believe that this planet has been visited and occupied many times in the past, and even civilizations built by aliens, and you could call them the Ayasir or the Anunnaki or the there's several, and there's all kinds of theories out there. Yes, I do believe they've been here. They're probably behind the scenes still, influencing things. They are relatively advanced, but not more spiritually advanced, I wouldn't say. These are aliens, and on this level, this dimension of third dimension reality, because we live in the third dimension reality. the aliens that exist on this level with us are I would say, not more spiritually evolved, although they are technically, scientifically more spiritually evolved, many of them.
Okay, and one would ask, like, how do you know what you know? Or some people say what you think you
That's
know.
a good question. I've been curious my whole life. I believe I've read, a little bit of everything, and these are just pieces of the puzzle that come together for me that paint my picture. This is my perspective of the reality that I have pulled together from all the resources that I have looked at in my lifetime. So far, this is the image that I am pulling together from all of that. And it's kind of an intuitive yes. This resonates with me, but I can't say it's the ultimate reality. It's not. It's just a picture. It's the way I see it.
Okay, so have you had any, if you don't mind, you don't have to speak on it in depth if you have, but have you had any, what you'll call alien experiences or UFO experiences?
I live in a very interesting area, and some of my neighbors would say that they are aliens. Actually, I rented out my house here for 10 years to someone who believed he was an alien. And he said, there's one of the country's biggest alien universities here. Okay, all right, well, why not? There have been a lot of UFO sightings. My son has seen them. But me personally, actually seeing one, no, I haven't seen one myself.
Okay, and so you haven't seen what you would think is a UFO before?
I have seen what I think could be a UFO, a light in the sky and moving and then suddenly dash away in the different direction or up and down. I mean, just stuff that our technology, as far as I know, doesn't know how to do. But these lights can come down. My son said he saw 3 of them, I believe. And I remember that day, he said, "Oh my God, Mom, come and see. Oh, geez, look." And I ran in and he said they just left, but I didn't see it, so I wasn't sure. But you do see around here occasionally a light in the sky, and it's moving in a strange, slow, erratic way, and then just suddenly shoot off in a different direction. A lot of people would say, yeah, that's a UFO. Okay, I'll go with that. Why not? I believe it.
Right.
Sort of. Yeah. I think I have no doubt in my mind that aliens are here. I mean, statistically, they say it's impossible that we are the only intelligent, if you can call us intelligent, we are the only intelligent life in the universe is statistically impossible. I think most scientists would agree on that.
Okay, yeah, we're really threading needle here. So going back to what we were talking about, when it came to cryptids or mythical creatures, um, I have a quick video of something that I found it online, of course, and it's a supposed video of a real mermaid. What do you think about mermaids before I show the video?
Oh, I think they could be here. Sure. And if they aren't here now, I think they were here for, maybe thousands of years. I don't know. But yeah, I believe them. I could add too that I believe there's a good possibility that we have been genetically modified multiple times into different species throughout history, and we tend to our history is only 12,000 years old. No, our history can go back, gosh, I mean, you can find articles out there that go all the way back to almost 1,000,000 years that different human species have been evolving or manipulated, tried out, experiments. And I think mermaids might be one of them, could be.
That is interesting. All right, check out this video and let's see if I can play it. And I want to know what y'all in the chat think about this video. It's a video of a supposed real mermaid. Check it out.
Yeah, so it just gets the slow mo effect. Wow, what do you think about that?
Yeah. Of course, there's that part of me that says, oh, wow, that's so cool, but you look at what's going on now with deep fakes and technologies. I mean, my father was an actor, he was teaching us all the tricks in the book in Hollywood. I mean, you can do anything on a flat screen and make it look real and interesting. I don't know if that was real. I have no way of knowing that. I think it's interesting, and who knows, maybe it is. I think mermaids possibly exist. Yeah, anything's possible. But that's
Okay.
fun. It's one of the really good ones that I've seen. That was really neat.
Right. And you mentioned mission. I don't think, well, I just created that word. Okay, I'm going to copyright that tomorrow. Mission. I just got to add a definition to it. But um
Yeah.
I and now through all of that, let's see what I was going to say. Um wow, I just forgot what. Oh yeah, you mentioned earlier the disco era. So do you recall the disco queen's name? Disco queen.
I'm an old hippie. I didn't get that much into disco. I think I remember John Travolta dancing. That's about all I remember. I don't know. No, I don't know.
Okay, that's all good.
Mm.
You're staying alive. At least you were staying alive. That's John Travolta. But
Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Is there
so
another Mandela effect there that you're
yeah,
what
I just
is it?
want to know. Yeah, I just want to know what you think. So her first name is Donna. Do you remember? Do you recall any last name? Donna is a singer. Donna.
I'm bad with
Okay, so what about y'all in the chat? And Biz Wolfer says, probably get this light. Thanks for asking my question. It's all good. What do you think about that, y'all in the chat? Donna, what's her name? Donna, what? I want to know what y'all say.
Summers?
There you go. Summers. Okay, but if you look now, there's no S on that.
Really?
Yeah, Go Kart says Summers, but with two M's though. I would say. Okay, Go
Okay.
Kart Bob says Summers. Corrected that. Yeah. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say what they're now calling Mandela effects, it would not surprise me if it's happening more and more because they're doing these CERN experiments, on occasion. I don't think they're doing it every day, but they're doing it. They're going to do another one so it's possible that these little pages of our realities are just being wiped out every time they do it. I don't know. It's possible. So if that's the case, then these different realities and different parallel universes, they keep collapsing together. um I don't think we'll be able to completely ruin the whole of existence because I think there are aliens out there watching us. Okay, we'll put that down there. um but I think it can get pretty darn confusing if this keeps going on. um because we're mixing up our realities.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so almost everyone in the chat says Donna Summers, so
Summers.
they're familiar with the person. Go Kart Bob is over there dancing, talking about "Get Down Boogie Oogie Oogie."
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I think that's a song. That's part of one of the songs that Donna Summers sings. And
Yeah.
Silks says they gave it to Sally, which brings me to this. Are you familiar with that actress named Sally?
No. You know what? I've been curious about a lot of stuff, but I've never been curious about what's on TV. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was referring to Sally Fields. Is another Mandela effect for some people that's familiar
Okay.
with her.
Yeah. I do remember movies with Sally Fields. She did one called Sybil, which I thought was really interesting. So there's what's happened with her? Is her name changed or what?
Yeah. Yeah. People. Yeah, like, you said Sally Fields. I'm
It
assuming
was
other
Sally
people.
Fields. Yeah, it was always Sally Fields. What is it now?
It's Sally Grassfield now.
No, it's not.
I'm just joking.
Okay, I was gonna say, wow, this is time to get off the bus here. That's a
Right.
that's a whole different reality.
Yeah, but it's now Sally Field with no S.
See, that's mind blowing. It was Sally Fields. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
that's the way I remembered it anyway.
Okay. Anybody in the chat has any questions? You know, let's see. Da, 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 da. Skook says our ability to control our reality weakens the further away. Our ability to control our reality weakens the further away from us.
I get
Huh.
it. It's true. I
Okay.
would say yes. You're right. What that means to me, if you look at my PowerPoint, the farther down we get into fear and survival and addictions, when you're down in those levels, you're dealing with an energy where you are not really able to create your own reality. You are just becoming the result of whatever is happening. So you lose your ability to create and change your story when you get too far down there. You're just too locked in. So through meditation, that's my way of helping to release that and start to float upwards again, where you do have more. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's it. That middle piece right there is, you could say, where nothing's happening, where that's where I go when I meditate. I try to stay right in the middle and just not go into a lot of storytelling. But when you're way down at the bottom, you are really stuck. You can't do anything. It's almost like you have to wait around for some grace of God or something to kick you out of that solid place. It's a very fearful place. I think when people hurt themselves and commit suicide, they are down there somewhere. They can't get out. They need help. And that's what all these propagators of light are doing, is we're trying to lift the story up. And I do that through meditation. When you go into the void, the no thinking, like I said before, it's like you let go of the cork that you've been holding under the water. You just let it go and you float up. That's my experience with meditation. You can do that with music, things like that.
Yeah, if
That,
you could
that
speak a little bit.
mhm.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to get a little bit more into meditation, because Skooks made a point here that I think goes to what you're saying, like, you know, keeping the energy high, where you have more control and ability to manifest. So, I you know experienced in my world that when I started to meditate a lot more, you know, I don't watch TV anymore, and I went from not watching TV to it being hard for me to watch movies. You know, just like movies. I understand there's a lot of good stuff out there, but I'm just so disconnected now. So I meditated more, cleared my mind and whatever, and I'm starting to see or notice things in my reality that I was thinking not too long ago. So I'm realizing that I'm manifesting things. What were you about to say? It's all good.
That's absolutely what happens. Is the more you clear your mind, the more things unfold in a good way for your benefit. Or you think about synchronicities are happening all the time. It's like, oh, you heard about something and then you go to the store and a book falls off the shelf and it's all about that something. You know, these synchronicities start happening. Yeah, I think meditation is my ticket. I mean, for some people it's exercise. You just run, you know, and you get into the zone and you're not thinking, you're just being, you know, you're just running. The point, my way of describing meditation that I like, and in fact it's the logo for my business, is the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. And my logo is the butterfly without its wings, haven't even unfolded yet. So it's sort of this butterfly that's in the process of blossoming into its full self, but it's coming out of the cocoon. So the cocoon is this place where the caterpillar goes and spins itself into a cocoon, and then it stays there and does nothing. And what happens is, over the course of time, it dissolves into jelly, pure jelly. Nothing is identifiable. You can't distinguish a leg from a wing, from anything. It's just pure jelly. And then after some time, it begins to take on some form. So my idea of, or my way of looking at meditation is, when you go into meditation, you are basically wanting to get into that jelly state of nothing. You're letting everything go. It's a practice of letting go, everything, just let it go. And you're basically turning into jelly. Now, I've mentioned a couple times on some of my videos, Deepak Chopra has a wonderful way of saying, well, the way you create your reality is you have some vision in mind that you want, some, you know, nice future or beautiful, you know, career or something. And you have that vision and that feeling. A lot of it is in the feeling. So you have that feeling, you go into meditation, and as you turning into jelly, you just drop that image in. It's like putting in a scaffold, and you hope that the universe will fill it in. So you're in this jelly state. You introduce this kind of a scaffold of an idea, of a wish, and then wait for the universe to help to give it form. So when you come out of meditation, you know, you're not going to see it like a butterfly right away, but this is, if you continually do it, this is how you eventually start to see evidence of that scaffold filling in. If that makes any sense at all. Yeah, that's how I see it. Meditation is basically learning how to let go of everything and being willing, a willing participant of letting the universe work through you. And every religion talks about that. You know, you become a vessel for the universe to work through you. You just have the intention and the attention, which is quantum physics. Wherever your attention goes, that's where you go.
Right. I heard someone say, wherever your attention goes, your energy flows.
Yeah, that's it.
And right. And I'm also familiar with Robert Monroe. You know, I heard his whole story online. And he was also a participant in the Philadelphia experiment, correct?
Yeah, you know, I'm not that familiar with that experiment. I've certainly heard it a number of times. Didn't Bruce Springsteen do a movie about it? And maybe I'm wrong. But I'm not that familiar with it.
Okay. And I've heard a lot of his lectures and speeches about you know, the astral realm and the binaural tones. He's the creator of the binaural beats, I believe.
That's right. Yeah. I have some of that, and that works too. That you put the headphones on, and it takes you into a deep state of meditation.
Right. I've tried that before, you know, and it works. You know, it just takes my mind off. You know, it seems to me that when I somehow, like, sometimes I try to disconnect from my environment because, let's say, it's noisy, you know, and it can get to a point where it's just like, you know, like, stop, stop. It's like you just keep pounding on me, stop. You know, the noise, trucks going by, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. And it seems like when I do things like that, where I will, you know, put on something like that, you know, the binaural tones, it just takes me away. And then next thing you know, the environment calms down. So I'm thinking like, okay, is it like you said, we're connected to the environment? Is it doing this because some would say that the reality or the matrix is trolling you by doing certain things, you know, at certain moments. But I'm thinking like, is it me? Is it my, when I'm just getting, okay, so I don't think I'm creating the distraction to distract myself. And sometimes the distraction could be from a good place to keep me from going a certain direction. Like, what do you think about distractive qualities of reality?
Oh my goodness, this goes into so many different subjects. Yeah. The whole thing about binaural beats, like I said, you can go up and down through the energies of, the chakra system or the kundalini, whatever you want to call it, based on what vibration you're tuned into. And so these binaural beats, the ones that they can take you anywhere. They can sort of manipulate your vibration in your brain and how you feel. The ones that I have take you into a very deep delta stage of meditation. And it does work. I hosted a Buddhist monk once at my house, and I said, what would you mind putting these on and telling me what you think? So he did. He went into a deep meditation. He took them off. He said, these are good. These are good. These take you there to that place of deep concentration. So I do think they work. They certainly work for me when I'm feeling agitated or frustrated or distracted. I can put those on, and within half an hour, my vibration has completely changed. It's more spacious. Like, again, in that lake, it's more open. It's more spacious. You can see better, and in that level you start to have what I call insights, because you just see the way it is. It's like remembering. It's not even an insight, it's a remembering. So yeah, the binaural beats are very effective, I think, for cultivating those higher levels of consciousness. Yeah. Did I skip something? Did I
Yeah.
miss a question? Okay.
No, let me see if there is any questions here for you. Let's see here, or for myself. Burgos is here. Welcome, Burgos. Appreciate you coming through. And so yeah, there's people speaking amongst themselves, which is very cool. But
Yeah.
Skooks mentioned earlier something about Maslow stole his hierarchy of needs from the chakra system. Who's
Yeah,
Maslow?
that's very good. What, I think you're right. I do think he possibly did. The hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, starts out with basic needs. You need to breathe. You need to, have food. You need to have shelter. I mean, these are the basic bottom hierarchy of needs on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then as you go up, you become more engaged in your desires, and then so yeah, there it is. Then you go all up into the pleasures and the addictions, and see, because when you're down there trying to breathe, right, somebody's suffocating you, you are not thinking about sex, you are not thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, you are in survival mode. So that's where the very bottom line is in hierarchy of needs, is survival. So as you go up, then you become more creative. You start to express yourself. You're more exploring, and then of course you can go up into service and loving. And now as you go up, see, there's this place here. You can get caught in the whole illusion and insight level. But if you continue to meditate, go into that jelly state, you will actually find yourself going all the way. And that's fine. You go into stardust, you become the ultimate consciousness, but it's not very functional for your creation. I mean, we are creators. What are we doing here? We're creating. That's what we do. If you're just merging back into unity consciousness, to live there all the time, I mean, it's fine to touch base there, when you meditate, but you don't want to stay there. There's, I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you've had enough of all of this. But in Buddhism and Hinduism, they have what's called the bodhisattva. And that is a person who has experienced the whole consciousness, the whole entire enlightened state, and says, oh, okay, and they can stay there for millions of years. And then at some point, they're going to want to come back to serve humanity, because that's the only only story there is, really. As Ram Dass would say, it's the only dance there is to play here in these realms. Because if you choose absolute total consciousness, you know, that's fine. That's beautiful. Everybody needs to do that, I think, at one point. But it's not experience. There's no experience there. It's just pure electricity, if you will. So yeah, we can go up and down through all those levels of reality. Yeah, and my feeling is, my goal is to maintain the balanced place, which is right in the middle, right where the heart is. Of course, you know, I can get pulled up or down either way, but my goal in daily life is to just sort of try to hang out in that middle zone, that place where love is, where there's connection, where there's, you know, good experiences among you. I mean, not always good. Sometimes it's very painful. Like you see on the other side is grief. You know, where you love, you will also grieve, because people come and go and things change. But that's life. It's always going to be something. If you choose to have an experience, you're going to be in the game. And some of it is going to hurt. Now, suffering, we didn't talk about suffering. Suffering is in the mind. Pain exists. Pain comes with the package. Everything experiences pain. Every animal, you know, they even show that vegetation, if it feels threatened, will give off some kind of vibration, feelings of being threatened. But that's not the same as suffering. Suffering, you know, humans are really good at that. We make up the worst stories. Poor me, you know, I'm suffering. And in reality, it's only pain. It's only pain and grief. Grief can happen, you know, if a mother animal loses one of its babies, it feels the grief, it feels the loss. And if it's got a thorn in its leg, it feels the pain. Suffering is not the same as that. Suffering is a mental story that we tell ourselves that actually increases the discomfort. And if you can step outside the story, all you're really feeling is tremendous energy just flowing. It's can be writhing up and down your spine if it's painful, or, you know, maybe your heart feels broken. But if you don't add the stories on top of it, you'll experience nothing but just energy. And you're not even judging it, not good or bad. It's just like sticking your finger in the socket. It's just alive.
Wow.
So yeah, that's me.
Wow. I never thought of it like that. You know, like you take away the titles and, you know, and you just experience, it's like, what is it at that point, you know?
Yeah.
So we have Sky Nest with a question. How can we deal with fear?
I think it's there, it happens, it's uncomfortable. It's if you don't add to it with a lot of stories, you can recognize that your fear, it goes back to that first story I told of falling out of an airplane. You're falling, okay, and you realize, oh my God, I have no parachute. Fear. There's scrambling and screaming and twisting, and then you finally ultimately realize that you have nowhere to land. There is no ground to hit. We're in free fall all the time, and we can go in and out of fear as much as I wouldn't say what we want, because you don't want to feel fear, but it can come and go like the tides. You know, it can come up and recede. I think when you have a kind of an enlightened experience, or you have a near-death experience, or even out of the body experience, you begin to see through all of the concepts that this body is all I am. And you begin to realize, now there's a much bigger story going on here. And when you can relate to that bigger story, that this body is just a coat, you know, you're out in the cold and you're wearing your coat. You put your coat on when you go out. It's your ego. It's your body. You wear it like a tool. And then when you die, you take it off. You come in and you warm your feet or whatever. So bodies come and go. Life, it's a great saying. What's the opposite of death? A lot of people would say life. Well, actually, no. The opposite of death is birth, because life has no opposite. It just goes on infinitely, and in all the expressions that are imaginable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Go-Kart Bob said earlier, fear is an instinct sometimes needed, and
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
and then Skook says fear shouldn't be chronic, as that is usually a sign of PTSD, which I have suffered. And then Go-Kart Bob says, yeah, chronic. That's how I cope with fear. Just joking.
Wow. Yeah. That's fear is. I think what we do is, yes, there is fear. You're not going to get away from that. It's built into the body. It's part of us. It's a survival instinct. It's part of our evolutionary, means of survival. We need it. You have to be afraid sometimes. When there's a house fire, you have to be afraid enough to get out of the house. So it's helpful. It's part of us. What we don't want is to sit around worrying about stuff. That's unnecessary. That's pulling your own cork down under the water. You're creating more problems for yourself than necessary. You can have your basic emergency plan. Yeah, okay, got my emergency plan. Now I don't have to think about it anymore. Fine. Don't think about it. If you're thinking about it, that's causing suffering. The mind is really able to make a lot of suffering for us. Fear and pain and you name it. Fear is
Okay.
okay. Fear is okay. We just don't want to create more of it than we need to.
Okay. So yeah, we haven't really spoken a lot behind the scenes yet. So I just wanted to ask you some basic Mandela effectos to see what you
Okay.
think about it.
Yeah.
The cartoon called Looney Tunes. Are you familiar with that?
Oh yeah, I watched that every Saturday morning growing up. It had 2 O's, and it was Looney Tunes. Um, I don't know what it is now. What is it
Okay.
now?
Okay, so that's interesting that you said 2 O's. You're not familiar with this particular effect, are you?
Did I see that? Okay, let me tell you what I remember as a kid. It was Looney, Looney, I think, and then Tunes was T. Oh gosh, see now I'm not entirely sure because I know it was either TOO or TU. So, I don't want to say yay or nay because I honestly don't recall that well. I think it was TUNES for me growing up, pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure.
That's interesting too because some will call what just happened a download. Some will say that, okay, you said this at first and then later you change it up. Some will call that a download, because people have experience saying that, oh, I recall it this way, right? And then you bring up something else about it, and then they say, you know what? I don't think it was that way. That's understandable because you trying to recall it, right? But
Yeah.
it's curious to me that you said tunes had 2 O's because that's the particular part of the effect I was referring to.
Ah.
And yeah, it's different now. It doesn't say tunes the way you recall it or the way I recall it as well.
So what is it? What is it now then? Is 2 O's or a U?
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, there's a U there.
Nowadays there is? Yeah, because I kind of
Yes.
I know there was a difference, but I wasn't sure which way. So I can't say one way or the other if I for sure remember it that way or not. But the ones that I really remember, like I said, are the Monopoly, Monocle, um, Bernstein Bears, um, and the Ford logo. Those are the absolute. I can say without a doubt, absolutely, those have changed.
Okay, welcome in when AZ remembers tunes, just like you said and the way I recall it. But now when I look now, it says TUNES, music,
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
So the music is loony, not the tunes. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. That one I don't know.
Okay, and
Tunes
schools for
was,
call.
yeah. Interesting.
Okay, okay. And also Go Kart says Looney Tunes, as in cartoons, exactly. Not the music, Looney Tunes. I don't think the music was loony. I love the music, you know.
Yeah.
It was straight. It wasn't as loony as the tunes, but actually the title of it is now I'm getting confused. Looney Tunes. Yeah, it was the cartoons. It was about the cartoons, not the music.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of them, and I bet there's going to be more. As long as CERN keeps doing what it's doing, we may end up seeing more and more.
Okay, and real quick, do you recall this a solution that when you make a mistake on the piece of paper with a pen, you will white it out? Do you recall what that solution is called?
To white it out?
Yeah.
Well, they have
The
that
name,
little whiteout, the whiteout ink in the little white bottle with a little brush on it, like nail polish, and you dip it and white it out. That was called
right,
whiteout.
right. And how would you spell that? Just from if you recall the product name. If you don't, that's fine.
I think it was the way it would be spelled: WHITEOUT.
Right. That's the way it was for me, but now it's WITE.
No, it's crazy. It's really clear that these effects are happening, isn't
Hmm.
it?
Right. And then also, I recall Sex in the City, and these are just basic ones. These are called, from my perspective, these are the basic ones that people have spoken about many times. So yeah, Sex in the City, now it's Sex and the City, and then
No, I remember Sex in the City. Oh yeah, this is going to get this. If this keeps going, I think it could get very confusing.
yeah, and then yeah, one would say, okay, and then Revelations, right? So it's a whole experience or stories. This is the Bible, the KJB. I'm referring to Revelations is not just one story, right? So from my perspective, it was Revelations, but now it's Revelation with no
Yeah.
S.
No, I read the Bible a number of times, a couple times at least, and I read Genesis and Revelations many times. It was Revelations with a S.
Right. Okay, for sure. So those are the basic ones. There's a lot more. So just real quick, before we bounce out of here, what do you think synchronicities are, or what's causing it? I have a lot of synchronicities every day, and I just want to know, like, what is it? What's going on? Why is it even happening?
Well, I think a lot of spiritual teachers, gurus and teachers will say the more awake and aware and insightful you become, the more in alignment you are with the universe, and the universe is working through you more and more increasingly. It's not a night and day thing. It's a gradual, and there's backsliding and all that. But the universe begins to work through you, so that when you think something, you can, sometimes suddenly the evidence shows up, or the phone rings and it was your friend that you were just getting ready to call, or you're wondering about something and bam, there's a commercial about it. I think that is evidence that you're coming into alignment with it just means for me that you're on the right track. It's like seeing 11:11 on the on the clock. It's like little, for me, it's like clues from the universe that I'm in alignment. going the right way at the right time.
Yeah, because that's what a lot of people. Give me a second. All right. Um, that's what I've heard from a lot of people that. Give me a second. I have a Knight Rider car, and it got mad at me, and Kit just left.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, I don't know if you're in the background. Cars. Anyway.
I don't hear anything.
uh,
Sounds good to me.
okay. Something told me not to mention that. But so where was I at? So Go Kart Bob says um right here on the screen. Ask Dora what the Ten Commandments were written on.
Oh my gosh. Now we're going to get into some, I don't know. I didn't see them be written. I don't know. You know, whether they were on granite or whether they were written into our subconscious. I don't know. I do know that they are not just in the Bible. You can see, as far as I know, most religions will have codes of conduct. You know, Buddhism, you know, a lot of the codes of conduct are about speech. You know, don't use harmful speech. Don't say something that's totally unnecessary. And so there's all these codes of conduct. In Buddhism, I think there's 8 for the average layperson, and then more than that for people considering going into a monastic life. I think what the commandments are, whether you're talking about Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism, they are ways of living. It's a suggest you live this way. If you live like this, you know, do these good things, then your mind is quiet. Your mind can get to a quieter place. And from that quiet place, you begin to have higher consciousness. If you're, you know, if you're doing bad things and you're angry and beating somebody up and, you know, having improper relations and trying to take advantage of people, your inner self knows that this is not who you really are. This is getting down into that solid ego thing that's too dense to see. You can't see anything from that point. It's in that PowerPoint again. When you get too far down, or when you're scuba diving, when you go too far down, it's dark down there. You can't see anything. So I think these codes of conduct, they basically just say, do these good things and you will begin to have a better view and perspective, a better understanding. You'll have more awareness. You'll begin to remember who you are. And I think those codes of conduct are there kind of as a signpost, you know, go this way. Don't go that way. That's not going to help. Go this way. And eventually you will begin to have a better, broader, more expansive and heartfelt connection with your true self and everybody else.
Right, that's what I always try to achieve here on this channel. And so before we bounce out of here, did you want to stay for a couple of more minutes, or you need to get out of here right
I can stay. I do want to put in a little plug for my coaching business at creationcoach.com. And what I do is I work with people who want to explore these issues, find out where they are in all of this, and try to, you know, gain more self-creative expression. In other words, intentionally create your life instead of kind of being thrown around in the mix and feeling helpless. So it's kind of an empowering experience. And some of that I do teach meditation. And so creationcoach.com, if you're interested, you can head over there and connect with me from there. So yeah, I can hang out and talk all you want.
Okay, okay, and also her YouTube is in the descript box, so check that
That's
out.
right. I have a YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm just getting that going. I'm learning the technology. I just got broadband last year, so now I'm playing with the oh, what can we do? So I started a YouTube channel, Creation Coach. Same thing. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. And so just real quick about Mandela effect. You were saying earlier about CERN, if CERN keeps doing what they're doing, um, do you think that we have any influence over reality by our thoughts? And you were saying yes earlier, just breaking down what you thought about that, how we influence our reality. Do you think that it goes into another question, right? I'm just trying to figure out what you think about these things.
Yeah.
Um, do you think that um, it's not just a company alternate reality is also us? And you were saying yes earlier, but you were saying later, right after that, that if CERN keeps doing, so what's going on here? Is it
Yeah.
both, or is it CERN the
Well,
most?
yeah, like I said, I think everything already exists. If we just thought about it, it exists. Okay. It's out there somewhere on a parallel reality. It's on a different page of our book now. If we can think about it, it's there, it's existing, it's a done deal. All we have to do is decide, do we want to go there? There's a reality out there where potentially CERN has messed up one level of reality after another, so that when we walk out our front door, we don't know where we are. Our blue car is now red, and our store that we used to go to isn't there anymore. I mean, this could get very chaotic, and I think in that level of reality that might exist somewhere. I don't want to go there. And so I'm just telling a different story that I want to believe in, where I have more intention and control over not going in that direction. And that means maybe putting myself in a reality where that's not happening in my experience. It might be happening in other parallel realities somewhere, but I don't want it to happen in my experience. So I'm picking and choosing where I want to go. If I can do it. I mean, I I these are things that sometimes it could take an absolute master, a spiritual master, to really be able to get a handle on this, and I'm certainly not a spiritual master. I sort of have some little ideas and play tools to mess around with, but I don't know if I'm powerful enough to create a whole different reality and bring everybody along with me, because I don't my reality is going to be shared by everybody with me. This is our co-creative experience. And I don't want to go in the direction of where science is destroying our reality all the time. Yeah, does that make
Right.
any sense? Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
possible. It's possible that CERN is messing everything up, and it needs to be, I think it should be stopped.
Okay, because I heard that they're trying to bring forth a particular reality that they want. And the reason why I asked you that question is because this is something I brought up before on my channel. But we haven't spoken a lot, behind the scenes, so we're just now really getting to know each
Right.
other's theories and thoughts. So you probably haven't heard me say that. This is the reason why I asked you this, because I was in a Costco parking lot one time, and I looked up at the sign and I said to myself that it will make more sense if there was a T in it. And then I went about my night, because it was at nighttime when this happened. Went about my day, and then I went online, and then someone said that Costco has a T in it, and I'm like, nah. So it became a Mandela effect a week later. So that's why I asked you, you know, could the, what I mean? Like, how did I, like, that was me that put myself there, or was it God that said, hey, I need you to have more of an open mind about these esoteric things, and so I'm going to make this happen, and see if you realize it, or was it just me that put myself in that reality? Like, that's what I'm wondering.
I think it was both. I mean, you and God, that most inner part core of you, of us, that were not always feeling like we're in touch with is there. And so I call that God working through us. I think it's everybody's having their own experience, and everything that we're experiencing is starting in our thoughts. It begins in our thoughts. So yes, I think what's happening for all of us is we're going into a story where life is, the fabric of life is potentially unraveling, and we're going to potentially be seeing more and more unusual, strange, bizarre, that doesn't make sense, and that wasn't like that yesterday. I think we could be going into more and more of that. And the bottom line is, if all of this already exists, what's the point? The point is to realize that we are not, in essence, any of it. That's not who we are. We're not the crazy story. We're not the happy story. We're not the sad story. We are all of it, and we're nothing. I know that got way out there. Sorry. I do that. It's for your benefit. It's for my benefit. Things get crazy. People don't evolve or go on any kind of a spiritual quest unless they are confused or suffering, typically. You got to hit that bottom. You got to reach that point of asking yourself, why am I here? What's this all about? And it's usually suffering and confusion that betrayals and things like that really kickstart that search.
Okay, that makes sense. So that would be entropy.
Yes. Entropy. Entropy followed by evolution. Mm-hmm. Which brings us to another interesting.
Okay.
I don't need to drag on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the entropy.
No, go ahead. I'm
okay.
interested.
Yeah, entropy for me, what I see right now is we're going into entropy, and what that also means is, if you want to get into astrology, and my mother was an astrologer, so I throw that in sometimes. We are coming out of the Pisces age, and we're going into the Aquarian age. So at the beginning and end of every age, there is entropy. And it all goes together, and it all collapses in, and then it goes to that point of nothingness, pure consciousness, and then we come out reborn, and we start all over again into the next age, which is the shape of the torus that I showed on my PowerPoint. So yeah, we are in entropy.
Okay. I didn't mean to ask so many questions. I mean, you could ask me anything you want regarding the topics, but I just want to ask you something regarding what you just said. So you said entering an age, right? So some people would say that right there is new age, and then they will say, well, basically new age is, I guess you could say, has a bad connotation to it, but new age is really a new age, correct?
Yeah,
A new beginning.
Yeah, come every 2,000, maybe 2,400 years. I'm not sure on the numbers exactly, but something like that. It's a procession, and all it is, astrology has been with us for forever. I mean, even the ancient pyramids, they're designed to be in alignment with certain constellations in the sky. This is astronomy, astrology. Why do they do that? Why are all these ancient civilizations geared around, the positions of the stars? Well, part of it is because they want to know when to plant their gardens, or their fields or whatever. But they also could tell, especially the Mayans, they had a sense or a history of knowledge that when we go through a 2,500 whatever it is age, then we go through entropy, and then we come back around into the new age. And the Mayans actually It's beautiful history. The Mayans had a leader, I can't remember who his name was, but he saw the change of the ages coming and he wanted to stop it. So he tried to stop the sun and stop all the stars. Don't anybody move. I want to stay right where I am. And of course, it didn't work. And the age changed. So what it does is it brings in different tendencies, different characteristics, different energies. I mean, we all know that the moon affects us. The moon affects the water of the planet. It affects the water in our bodies. You know, it expands, and some of us kind of go crazy on a full moon. And women have, you know, menstrual cramps or whatever. So the whole thing about astrology is not New Age. It's very, very old age. In fact, in the Bible, right? The three kings, they saw it in the stars. They saw, you know, the birth of the Jesus was on the horizon, and they followed the star. And so astrology has always been with us. It's just a way of reading the stars and understanding the influences that those stars have on us, like the moon has on us, that all the constellations have certain kinds of effects on us. So yeah, it's not New Age, it's very old age.
Yeah, because it sounds like the so-called New Age would have been New Age back then, if that was the case, because they're doing things that's just out there in a sense, you know, so to speak. You know, they're studying the stars or whatever like that, and it's not like ground, you know, stuff on the ground, you know,
Right.
the hustle and bustle, tussle. And so that would be
Yeah.
considered New Age back then, you know, it's a new way of, you know. So I'm just trying to understand that because some people call certain philosophies New Age philosophy, and that's, oh, that's bad and whatever. But I have an open mind. I want to hear a lot of everything, you know, under the topics that I speak on, you know, that we're speaking on, because I want to like understand. So I'm not going to
Yeah,
like you know, I'm not going to ban somebody because,
absolutely.
you know,
I
um,
appreciate this format, this whole podcast. I mean, this, you know, there are a lot of us out there that want to know, you know, we got questions, you know, is it really just all about, you know, get a degree and watch commercials and buy a lot of stuff? It's not. It's a much, much bigger picture. And you have to ask the big, crazy questions. What's it all about? Is this real? Is that real? Is that meaningful? Is this telling me? And all we can do is follow our intuition to find out our own perspective.
yeah, exactly. Um, Anything you want to end the broadcast with?
No, I want to thank you for holding space here. And I do have one question for you.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. If you want to add, oh, Nobleness D and Brenda made it in. I didn't mean to cut you off without using my single light there. Nobleness D. So he has a question for,
Okay.
I'm assuming you, and welcome in, Brenda. What does real mean to you? What does real mean to you?
That's a great question. It all boils down to that, doesn't it? That's why I threw one question out there early on is, what do you believe in? Because whatever's your reality is whatever you're believing. And so one of my favorite questions is, what makes you believe something? In essence, I believe nothing is real. Nothing is real. We're just making the stories. We've got electricity coming through the house, and we can do whatever we want with it. We can build toasters and refrigerators and video games, and we can do whatever we want with this energy. But it's not the energy, it's just forms that we're creating. It's just like, oh, I wonder if I can do this. Sure, let's do that. Let's find out if this works, and blah, blah. We are in such a crazy, wild state of creation and exploration and experiences. None of it is really, really real. It's just we're creating, and we're making sometimes a big mess of things. And I think we're coming to a point now where we've created this big mess. And we're going into entropy. We're drowning in this mess. And mom just came in and said, it's time to straighten up your room. And we've got to figure out how to do that. Yeah, the whole idea of real and not real is energy is real. Energy is real. Energy is not just real. I think energy is conscious. That's my perspective. It sees everything.
Right. So I would assume that what we call God, not to say that, okay, so God is within us, right? And what we call as God is actually what we call energy. Is that what you're saying? A consciousness?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's the way of explaining it. It's conscious. I would say it's loving. Its essence is love. It's conscious, and it's very much energy. It's life. It is life behind everything.
Okay, just letting that sink in for a minute. See what's going on in the chat. All right. So Brenda says everything has energy. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Thanks for getting to this point, like ink in the pen when you're about to write. So I heard that everything is energy, and atoms have empty space. So, and everything is made from atoms, including us. So there's potential in that empty space. Have you seen the double slit experiment on YouTube?
Oh yeah, that's physics. That's a basic physics experiment, I believe. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, where they shoot these little beams of light. No, what are they? Electrons? No, photons. Photons shooting through a slit. And I'm not real clear on how the experiment went, but I think the if nobody's looking, they show up on the far wall as expected. But if somebody's watching, they get scattered. That's the way I understand it. So the observer of the experiment, something in the process of their observing it, that connecting with it by observation changes the outcome. If that's the same experiment I'm thinking of.
No, that's the exact experiment that I'm referring to. It's just that I'm thinking that I think that you have it the other way around. If anybody wants to correct me, maybe I'm wrong. But I think that when you're viewing it, it acts the way that you will assume it will act. You know, when you shoot those particles through, they will go in the direction that you were thinking or assuming that they will. But when you're not looking, it does something different. I think it's the other way around. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, but whichever way it goes, I think the message is the same, is that consciousness is affecting it. Whoever, how it's being affected, I'm not clear on the experiment in all its details, but
Right.
but it says that consciousness, the observer, is affecting the outcome.
Right, exactly. It just comes down to that exactly. So Nobleness D says, I would say energy reacts to consciousness in a way that seems like life. Like? Oh, okay. Let
Seems
me read
lifelike.
that.
Yeah, it seems
Yes,
like
I
that.
would. Yeah. You want to respond to that?
So yeah, bring that up again. I want to make sure I read that correctly. Can we bring that up again? Where'd it go? Energy reacts. I would say energy does not react. Energy is just energy. Energy is just, like I said, it's just like electricity. It's not doing anything until we direct it somehow, whether through a wire or into a refrigerator. So the electric itself is not reacting. The consciousness is having the effect on the outcome. The self person And I don't know enough about it. It's possible that if that person is in a really nasty state of mind and watches this experiment, maybe it's a different reaction than it would be for somebody who just came out of meditation, and maybe that's a whole different reaction. I don't know. That's a really good question, actually. I like that. I don't know. I won't say that I know that, but I do believe that pure consciousness is not doing anything. It's just pure potential, pure creative potential.
Okay, and Go-Kart Bob says that that observation thingy has been debunked.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, science,
Eh,
you gotta love it. I don't know.
Right. And I've heard of this before, and I want to know if you heard of this. Before you asked me the question that you're going to ask me, but we kind of derailed off of that. My fault. Brenda says, have you heard of this? Go stand out by a tree. It will reach out and touch you. A branch. Like, so I've heard of this, like people on TikTok, people standing by a tree and saying, tree, if you can hear me, touch my shoulder, and then it looks like the branch will reach down and touch their shoulder. Have you seen that or heard about that?
No, I don't. I go walking every day, and I live here in the mountains, and so my walks, I don't see cars. If I see a car, maybe it's once every 20 minutes or something. I'm in the mountains. I'm talking with the trees and the plants all the time. I know that they are aware of me. It's not that they can see me, but they know the energy is passing by, and I can feel their awareness. I don't get branches or anything reaching out. That's an interesting. I'll look for it. I haven't seen it, but I think it's possible. I don't think it would happen that quickly for me anyway. Maybe some people can manifest reactions that fast. I don't. But I do know that everything around the trees, the plants, the bushes, the animals have more sense. They have the eyes and the ears to see everything else that's alive, the trees and wild, bushes and all this. They don't have those senses, but they are very, from my experience, they are very aware of my passing by. It's pretty remarkable, actually, once you start tuning into it and looking for it or feeling it. But yeah, I think that if we can tune back into nature, there is a lot there that she's trying to say right now, more so than I ever recall. She's wanting us to listen to her. That's what I'm feeling. And I'm trying. I'm doing the best I can. I meditate. I go walk among the trees, and I'm trying to tune in. I know that there's a lot there that she wants to say to us. And maybe it has to do with all this global change and, get ready for the big one. I don't know. But I think that people would benefit by tuning in more. And it doesn't have to be up in the mountains or, even on the beach. It could be a house plant. Maybe you have a little aloe plant or a little violet. If you pay attention and water it and love it, you can actually, I think, for me anyway, I can actually begin to feel. It's not they're not thinking. It's not like a thinking process going on. It's an acknowledgement that this is, it's just an acknowledgement of two living things communicating or acknowledging each other. So.
Right. I never mentioned this on my channel, but some years ago, I was walking in the park and I was walking past these trees, and I don't know if this had anything to do with my clairvoyance, but I felt like the trees had people in it, and I think that was just my way of making sense that the tree is conscious, maybe.
It's interesting you say that, because it brings back a memory back in the hippie days, right? I did LSD, and I was just laying on a lounge chair looking up into a tree, and every leaf had its own story, and there were people in there. So it was almost like every single leaf was a television with shows going on. So
Oh.
I don't know. I think there's the reason trees exist, maybe because other life forms exist and back and forth. I don't know, but that's an interesting experience. I don't know. I think trees and people are definitely living in cahoots. You know, we need each other.
That's kind of what Brenda says here. Plants, flowers, trees, everything holds energy. It has the same DNA makeup as us. So is that
Yeah,
true? Like, huh.
almost, not entirely. There is not all
Mm.
the same. We do have DNA that's specifically for humans, but yeah, it's interesting when you see all living things have similarities in their DNA.
Okay. And I've heard,
Hang on just a minute. I'm sorry, my brother's calling me. Hey, Mike.
all right. I was going to reach out to Mike real quick, see what's good. Mike is the technician to the broadcast, and just making sure everything is good behind the scenes. Let's welcome back Doro Kiley.
Yeah, and it's
Welcome back,
Doro. A lot of people, all my
Doro.
life, I've been called Dora. It's not Dora. It's Doro.
Right, right. And my apologies. As I said, we just met not too long ago. So yeah, how do you pronounce your name again?
Doro with a O, like Zorro or Toro.
Okay.
Yeah, Doro.
Doro Kiley.
Doro Kiley. Yeah.
There you go. All right, all right. And yeah. So okay. And Gokar Bob says, "Oh, Dora is experienced. So you're experienced."
I've had a few experiences. Yeah, I really have. I mean, my life growing up, my father was an actor, so I spent a lot of time backstage and even in Hollywood backstage. So I had that
Mm,
experience, and then the whole Ram Dass spiritual crowd. I was in with the Ram Dass crowd in California and in New Mexico for about a year. Um,
mm.
yeah, good
Okay.
old days. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So just real quick about the Mandela effect, though. So this is going to keep continuing, I guess, as long as we're open to new possibilities, and we'll end up in the some will say timeline, or let me just throw this out there. Is it a timeline that people?
I think there are, yeah, I use timeline and parallel realities sort of interchangeably, or parallel universes. You know, these are all, in my perception, these are all interchangeable words or concepts to use, where things that are going on at the same time as our perceived consciousness that we don't perceive, you know, in the moment. We're just living our little experience here, but there's infinite numbers of experiences going on everywhere. I keep going down rabbit holes. Sorry.
That's all good. That's all good. This is what everybody's here for. That's what I'm here for too. And I definitely appreciate you being on the scene with me. We may have to do a part two to this. There's so much to
You
talk
think?
about.
Yeah, this could go on and on forever. But when do I get to ask my question?
All that I did there was to distract you from asking me a question.
Yeah, you know, it's not really an answerable question, so I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire, but it's basically, if you could have any world you want, what would it look like? What world? I mean, I feel like right now our world is very much down in the commercials and the fear and the um, you know, a lot of stuff that I don't want to be here. I want to be in a better world. What would that look like for you? And like I said, it's not
um,
really answerable. That would take a lot of thinking, maybe.
well, just pretty much no judgment. That's what I'm working on myself. I'm not judging. It's the things that I'm working on myself. And I noticed that when I become a certain way, then my reality reflects that. So I'm always like understanding and learning and things like that. So of course I don't want to have pain. I don't want to be in pain. There's so many things that I could worry about, that's been going on in my life that I try not to worry about. I try to like I said earlier, meditate and do things that I love to do, which keeps me in that high vibration. And I'm just trying to understand what that place will be like for me. I'm not going to say the cliche thing like, oh, it's going to be, I want it to be like heaven, or I want everybody to uh, uh, be at peace with each other. And that would be nice, but at the same time, we do learn from the pain. It's unfortunate and maddening to go through, at least from my perspective. But yeah, I have a lot of things I could worry about, but I noticed that when I lean on that, it seems like it's a domino or a bowling pin effect where I'm stressing off of one thing. It's like a synchronicity. More things start happening that reference what I'm worried about, and it's just like, oh, you go down the rabbit hole of that. So I try to keep myself out of that. And one of the ways I do that is, like I said, I don't watch TV, and I do understand there's a lot of interesting things on TV, at least from what I've noticed, just by being on the outskirts looking in sometimes. But I kind of like stay tuned out of that because there's a lot of words that's on these programs, and you know, there you go. You could say two words to somebody, and it could change their life, or they could go off of those two words for a long time. And when you're watching the program or listening to like certain music, certain lyrics, it just could stay in you. So I try to just stay tuned out of the things that I don't want in order to reflect that in my life, if that makes any sense.
Wow, that's perfect. That's it. And that's what I do. When I meditate, it gives me the ability to be more discerning about how I'm feeling. It's like when somebody says something and suddenly I feel triggered, I notice that very quickly. It's like, oh, triggered. And then you can do something about it. You don't have to react. You can intentionally respond rather than just knee-jerk reaction. And because once you start going down that knee-jerk reaction path, it becomes harder and harder to turn it around. It's like if a car is at the top of a hill and it starts to move, you can stop it at the beginning. You can jump out and just stop it. But if you try to stop it when it's halfway down the hill picking up momentum, you're not going to jump in front of it and stop it. It's going to run you over. So meditation for me helps me to be more aware of what's happening before it gets worse. It's mindfulness, basically. And by using mindfulness, you can begin to direct your experience. Exactly what you just said. Same thing.
Yeah, definitely. I like your breakdown of that because I practice this every day, and you know, it was a struggle years ago when I was like living on autopilot. Like I would react to things, someone would say something to me, react to it, or like, I'm a man, you can't talk to me that way. I got to prove, and now when somebody does something, I just kind of just it. Okay, cool. I received it. I don't have to hold on to it, and I realize that when I don't hold on to it, it doesn't exist anymore. But when I've held,
Isn't that
if I,
interesting? Mm-hmm.
and holding on to it is like from my perspective, it felt like poison because you're carrying it through. I used to carry it through my day, and no matter what I'm doing, that person that called me, that came at me a certain way, is long gone. They may be just like a random person off the street. They're long gone, and I'm 8 hours into my day still thinking about it, and it just feels like poison.
Yeah, and it is poison. That's what pulls us down. That's grabbing the cork and pulling it down. You're just adding to it, adding to the problem. Yeah, learning to let it go is a real practice. I mean, it does take practice. Is another thing. Ram Dass, he says the whole spiritual path is really just about becoming nobody special. The ego, the clinging is like, oh my God, this is what I know to be true. And then letting go of that, it takes a lot of practice, especially the more it's got you. It's not so easy to just let it go.
Right, right. And if I'm driving a vehicle and I'm in traffic, and someone's moving slow in front of me or something like that, I very rarely use the horn. Some people just use it, and you never know what's going on in the car in front of you. This could be an elderly person that's having an issue, or this could be anybody having an issue, or the car is stalling, or anything, could be going on there. And so I try to understand it from that perspective, like, okay, maybe they're going through something, and maybe me honking the horn could make things worse, because then I distract other people that's trying to pay attention to the road. So I just try to practice mindfulness, like you said, and not be on autopilot. And it took me a while because I had to get out of survival mode. I'm human. I'm still going through. I have to eat still.
Yeah,
But
we all we all do. We'll get to the point where we don't have to eat. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's a really good, example is road rage. I think people really do suffer with that sometimes, and that's another, learning to let go of that is not so easy. But your technique is powerful. That person may have just lost their mother. That person may have just been fired. You don't know what's going on in that car. So good example. Thanks. Yeah, I like that.
right, right. Okay, so Go Kart Bob says, looking forward to part 2. So yeah, I mean, are you interested in possibly coming back here?
Yeah. Yes. Probably not every day, but maybe we can work something out next week or so. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. It's helping. It's not that I'm trying. I would love to grow my business, yes, but what I really want is to improve this world. And I think I put that on all my videos. My mission is to improve this world through you. And this is how I want to do it. I was going to expand these ideas so that people can begin to believe that we are creating this. We are not victims of anything. Right now we feel like victims, because of politics and whatever, but we're not. We're just buying into it, and we don't have to. We don't have to buy into it. We can create another story, and just phase out the old one, phase in the new one, and that has nothing to do with revolution or anything. That's just the way we want to use our creative minds.
Right. And I've heard people say, about, before we bounce this real quick, people say, like, excuse me, hold on, give me okay, yeah, I heard people say, like, the powers that be, and the person that's saying that is basically saying it as it has a bad connotation to it. They're saying it that way, but I'm thinking, like, okay, well, as long as you say the powers that be, you're actually giving power to something that you don't like, right? So I will always say, tap into the powers that be within yourself. Goes in.
Yes. Yes, that's beautiful. You're right. Yeah, we're synchronized there. Beautiful. Tap into the powers that are within, and that way we can climb into the front seat and take control. We don't have to be just being taken somewhere. We can get the hang of this. We can learn how to drive this car. We don't have to be a passenger. Is that
Right,
that
right.
makes any sense? So when I say the powers that be, it really depends on where you are. I mean, the powers that be for many people right now are, the whole one world government, and we've got all these people telling us what to do, and those are the powers. And on one level, they are playing that role, but we have the power to create a whole new paradigm, a whole new story. We just have to get on the same vision. We have to create the same vision and vibration in our idea of what we want.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool that you said that. You said you referred to a car, and it's like that's how I refer to things too. It's like our body is the car and we're the driver in it. But it's hard to think of it that way sometimes when you look in the mirror and you're like, that's me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's part of it. I mean, we're here because we chose to be here, I believe, for the most part, even if it's painful. I always believed that the people who have the most difficult, painful lives are actually the souls who are the strongest, because they know that they can come in and go through it and evolve very quickly that way. Um, that's getting more into real philosophy. That's outside the bounds of quantum theory. um, but yeah, I think we're all creating our own realities. I think that's the bottom line.
Right, right. Okay, cool. I guess we'll pair out of here, and I thank everybody for being in tune and all of the followers of Doro
Yeah, thank you.
coming through, to the chat and everything like that, and followers of this channel as well.
Beautiful.
Anything you want to because this is our first time really speaking, and I didn't mean to ask you so many questions, but
Oh, that's
did you
great.
want
No, fine.
did you want to throw like one or two my way before we pair out of here?
Yeah. What is your intention?
My intention is to bring peace, love, and understanding. It sounds cliche, but through my productions of what I do here on my channel and anything that I do, I try to implement that in it. Um, and to bring people closer to this being that we call God. I'm still trying to understand that consciousness there. I don't believe in God anymore because I feel that I know God.
Powerful. There you go. I'd say the same. That's how, yeah. That's powerful. So let's see if I can find one more good question for you. Oh, here's my favorite. You ready for this one? Now, this one comes from
Yep.
Charles Eisenstein, who I just love. And he speaks to me like nobody's business. I mean, he's got the vision going for the kind of world that I would like to live in. And one of his favorite questions is, what's it like to be you?
Wow, it's going to be very extensive, expounding experience you're about to witness here.
Oh, all right. Okay. Show on the road. What is it like to be you?
All right, let me
Let's
just go
hear
ahead and mark tomorrow and the next day off on my calendar and start now on this.
it. Let's create some space here. Yeah, I know. That's a huge question. Yeah. And
Well,
we don't have to get into, I mean, obviously that's personal. That's a personal question. And I think what Charles was trying to plant is a seed that says, instead of being judgmental, why don't we just be curious? You know,
mm,
I think that was the reason for his question, and I love it. It's a good one.
yeah, yeah, no, but I could answer that on the we call it the cups of it, the outs without getting too in depth.
Oh, good.
Um, yeah, I could do that.
Go for it.
Yeah, yeah. I just try to have an open mind. So with me, I just try to have an open mind. What it's like to be me. Open-minded is what I'm trying to say. And it's hard sometimes, because I deal with things like you said, personal things. Um, but what it's like to be me. I have some regrets. I made some mistakes. I beat myself up all the time when I do make a mistake, and I try to clear it with people. These days I'm more less uh, on autopilot to where I look at people as myself now, and it's like, well, how would I like to be treated? Treat people like humans rather than just objects. So if I make a mistake, I'll come to that person and say, hey, my fault on that. What is your perspective? And let's clear this negativity away so we could build, continue building. So, but it's maddening sometimes, and just going through my own personal things. I try not to judge that much. I've been judged a lot. I've been talked down on, and rejection and all this stuff like that. So it's kind of hard being me. But the easy part is that I decided to lean on God, and I feel like I'm going the route that has a higher purpose, and that's the part of me that feels good to be able to be here and conversate with you and the people in the chat. Because in my personal life, my uh, some of the people that I've known for years, I can't talk about these things to them, you know. So that's why I keep this channel open and I don't judge people. I just come in, tell your perspective, and we just go from there. So uh, I expounded on that, but what it's like to be me, I think that you know, in speaking with different people in my personal life, I speak to a lot of different people, and I noticed that a lot of people are going through similar things as I'm going through as a human being, you know. So what it's like to me is probably the same as anybody else, I guess. Generally speaking, like you're trying to make it, and you're trying to do the right thing while you're here. But sometimes things can get maddening, and I try to stay. Excuse me. Yeah, I try to steer away from the negative stuff as much as I can. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the suffering, I see you as awakening. You're awakening. I think there's a lot of awakening going on. And I think it's happening because there's a lot of suffering going on. Suffering can really break open the shell, and I hear that. But I hear like you probably started a long time ago. Some people are just now starting to like wonder about these things.
Right.
Um, Yeah, so you're a seeker. You're seeking, and you're still running through the old patterns that cause the suffering, and that's what we're doing. We're all doing that. Um, so yeah, you are a light, and you are propagating the light, and that's what you're doing. And you've got all these little lights coming around, listening and showing up. Thank you
Right.
for
Oh,
being you. Thank you for being you. This is important work, I think.
yeah. You as well. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm just doing what I love to do. You know, this is what I love to do. And like I said, I bring different people on without judgment. Some people may say, "Hey, this person is that. Well, I don't agree with this person, or I don't like this person." I don't really get into that. You know, I just kind of like I want to hear their experiences so I could learn. I don't have anybody in my personal life to talk to other than being online, so I will never like tear down a social media platform and say, "Forget this platform, forget because of this and that, whatever." We do need it doesn't I mean sometimes it helps to have revolutionaries to set change for certain things, but I'm not one of those people that will like put down the platform that I'm actually using to communicate with people about the topics I like to communicate on, you know.
Right.
um but yeah, yeah, I'm trying to be a light, you know, and that is my name, Propagate This Light. But anybody that goes to my channel, they will see like 98 pretty much 99% of the content on there is me with other people, and I always put their channel link in the description box because it's not about me, it's about the lifestyle, propagating light, you know.
That's it.
So
That's totally it. That's it. I think you and I are doing the same thing with our own whatever we got to work with, you know.
right,
Keeping people, just letting people know that there's more to this story than we're just being shown on TV or whatever. It's a
right,
much bigger story. I appreciate your spreading the light.
right, no problem. But before we get out of here, I want to throw one experience your way to see what you think about this. So
Yeah,
some years ago, I was in my bedroom and there was a TV. This is back when I used to watch TV, and I was just starting to not watch TV much, so I had the TV off at that moment, and I was sitting on the bed, and I picked up the remote control, which was on the bed, and I held it in my hand. So I had it in my palm. So the bottom part of the remote control was on my palm, and the buttons were at the top. So I'm just looking at it, thinking to myself, that is so incredible. Like how this is made to where it's no wires connected to the TV, and it's just basically pretty much wireless, and you can control the TV this way. I was thinking that in my mind, like that's so incredible, the technology, right?
isn't
When
it?
I
Yeah.
when I thought that, yeah, you know, and when I thought that, guess what happened? The TV came on
Without pushing a button?
without pushing the button. Now I stopped. After that
Really?
happened, yeah, after that, so when things like that happen, I kind of know now to stand still, to observe the situation, to see if I missed anything, or if I'm, you know, thinking of it the wrong way. So when that happened, I just froze, and to look to see if I accidentally pressed anything, right? And the position that I was in was, like I was saying, the remote was just in my palm, and there was no buttons on my palm to accidentally press or anything like that. So the
Yeah.
TV just came on after that thought.
That's great. That's great. And who knows? Who knows? That could have been anything from, the batteries slipped back into place, and it was a whatever, all the way up to you were being given a message by your higher self. I mean, it could span the spectrum of what does this mean. And so what does it mean to you? Maybe it's just an anomaly, another anomaly, and it's nothing to really think about. But I get a sense that for you, there held more meaning of possibilities. It's like, maybe I'm not the only one controlling reality. I mean, I don't know. What did it mean to you?
At that time, what it meant to me was something incredible. I didn't know exactly what, and I know I didn't press any buttons as I was sitting there observing. Like, did I accidentally press anything? And you're speaking about the batteries and things. And I guess there's energy in the battery in the cell. There's energy that's running the product. Maybe my energy aligned with the battery or something. I don't know, but
Could be. It's
after I
great
thought that
though.
thought, right,
I mean, I think it's really great that these anomalies can happen, and they kind of shake us. They shake us, and they make us ask the question, is like, is this real? Is this, who
right.
did that? Am I the only one here? um, those are important questions, and I think we need, because when we go around thinking we know everything, and this is the way it is, and this is how it is, and then there's no room for learning. So you have an inquisitive mind and an open mind. I can that's what comes through for me in that example. That you were like, oh, maybe there's more to this. Maybe somebody said something. Maybe this is a sign, and it could be.
Hmm. Right,
Indeed.
right, right. Okay, yeah, we need to get episode 2 going one of these days. I'll reach out to you, and
Okay.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you for holding this space, and for all your followers and for all your listeners. I think we're doing important work here. Yeah. What do we want?
Right,
Good question.
right, right. Okay. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So stay with me. I'm going to end the broadcast, but stay here with me, and
All right.
I'll get right to you. And thank you, everybody, for being in tune. And we'll hopefully come back with another, part 2, episode 2, whatnot. Lesson class, lesson class. Yeah, thank you for being in tune with us, raising your hand, asking questions and whatnot, being positive, following the code of conduct. And I wanted to ask her about the little lights she was saying earlier about dancing around. I have questions about that, but we'll get into that later. And again, thank you again. Make sure you share this. And oh yeah, big thanks to the FB admins that share this broadcast. And if you're not in the men and you share it, thank you so much. All right, everybody. You know what I always say. Rock steady.